but everyone's got that message already. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, we'll call this meeting to order at 6 o'clock. We'll start with a roll call, please.
Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy.
Yes.
Councilmember Dan Hahn.
Present.
Councilmember Cox.
Present.
Councilmember Stubble.
Present.
Councilmember Josh Hahn.
Yes.
Mayor White.
Present.
You have a quorum, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And great to have folks in the audience with us. A couple of reminders, if you've not been here for a bit, please make sure any of these little gadgets are set on stun. Yeah, I know you regulars know this well. If you need to have any conversations, please step out away from the door because the sound, even whispers in the chamber or outside, have a way of coming back in and can be quite disruptive for that. So we appreciate you being here, though. We love having folks here. So council, we need to have approval of the agenda and a potential amendment to it. We want to clarify that that amendment is okay with you, Adam. It's our next agenda item.
Move to approve the agenda.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Cox. A second, please.
A second, Mayor.
Seconded by Councilmember Stubble. So Adam, we wanted to add out, making sure that it's okay to amend the agenda to include changing the language on the ballot initiative. It's not substantially changing the ballot language. It's a clerical error and clarifying that it's up for renewal in 4 years.
So you just have to amend the agenda?
Okay.
So, Mayor, if I may. Yes. So Adam, I just want to be really specific on this. So we're actually adopting a new resolution that hasn't been noticed to the public. And that's okay for us to amend that onto the agenda right now.
You can amend the agenda item, yes, if it's not going to structurally change the resolution itself, if it was just a clerical error.
It appears to me, Mayor, that it
But we don't notice resolutions generally. We don't notice resolutions generally.
It does appear like a new resolution, not just an edit to the old one. I mean, there's edits in the language, but it's got a new resolution number. That's why I was curious.
It was still listed on the agenda, so I don't think this is going to
It
be
was
an
not
issue.
listed on the agenda. That's what we're asking.
But you
so
could still
we need to-
amend it to have it be part of business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then Mayor, I think pending that advice, I would amend the agenda for action items and add a 9G, new business action items and a new one, and that would be resolution number 1385. And that's a resolution of the governing body of the city of Lander, amending resolution number 1381 to clarify the question of the 0.75% sales and use tax to specifically establish a 4-year term.
Do we have a motion for the amendment? Can we get a second, please?
Second.
Okay. So first, let's move on the amendment, starting with you, Councilmember Larson.
Yes. No. Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Oh, so we currently have a 3-3, in which case I would vote, and I will be a yes for that. So it passes 4-3. Approval of the agenda as a whole. I'll start with you, Councilmember Hahn.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Yes.
And that passes. Thank you. Okay, first up at 6:04, we will call, open a hearing, the public hearing for a new restaurant liquor license application for Wind River Pizza, LLC, DBA Wind River Pizza Company, 680 Main Street, Suite C, Lander, Wyoming, Lot 11 and 12, Block 13, original town of Lander Commercial District. So Rochelle, will first turn to you for information for introducing Reed.
This application was received by the city by Wind River Pizza LLC. They are, you may have seen on Main Street, they're working out of the old floral arrangements, special arrangements building, and they're converting it into a restaurant, and they have applied for this to be able to serve beer and things of that nature with their pizza. It's in a commercial district, even though was a house, and so they're renovating it. I see that they are here today to answer any questions. You'll see later in the agenda where it talks about approval of the process. It's a little bit unique in that we're asking the council tonight to approve the license, but not to issue the license because they're not operational yet. And that is allowed under Wyoming state statute. Applicants would have a year to become operational and provide a food service permit. So those are the two pieces that aren't completed today as we sit here, but we anticipate, and I've been told that they're hopeful that that will be soon. I believe the thought is they certainly want to be operational by July 4th, which is a lucrative weekend and oftentimes a goal of businesses to be operational for that point in time. So we have sent everything to the state. They are cleared on many of their requirements. The only thing we're waiting for is the food service permit and their complete operational status.
Okay, thank you for that. Next up for this is public comment specific to this license applications. Anyone in the audience want to make public comment about this? Please approach the microphone.
Yeah, I wasn't going to speak tonight, but I was out at, subbing out at a middle school today, and we just got too many kids are getting destroyed by alcohol. And I don't know if anybody cares or not, but I care. So I said, okay, all right, here we go. So, and I don't know if it does any good. I don't know if you guys have already decided how you're going to vote or not, but if you have, what's the point of doing all this? But if you're open, and you should be open if you're going to be voting and have us come up here and talk and whatnot. Anyway, all right. Recently, my little 3-minute, once a month anti-drug alcohol mini talks have been characterized by a rather prominent state level politician as browbeating. That's nobody here, but a state level politician contacted me and said I'm browbeating. And furthermore, it has been explained to me that if my repetitive anti-alcohol rhetoric doesn't cease, I may be subject to being personally precluded from making future comments during regularly scheduled city council meetings. That's right. Somehow speaking out for 3 minutes once a month against the most destructive drug on earth has been characterized as browbeating. Well, this caused me to begin to wonder that if my little 3-minute once a month forays into Landers alcohol culture was being considered as browbeating by local purveyors and users of alcohol, might I be able to find evidence of there being browbeaters on the other side of the argument? In other words, might I be able to find evidence that the children of Lander are being browbeaten and brainwashed into becoming Lander's next generation of alcohol consumers? So with this in mind, I decided to take a drive down Main Street to see exactly to what extent the children of Lander are being constantly and relentlessly, 24 hours a day, browbeaten into becoming users of this drug. As I drove down Main Street, I counted 20 signs referencing liquor stores, bars, restaurants, which provided a great variety of alcoholic drinks. I even saw one establishment which said they provided liquid courage. Then I approached a grocery store. Liquor. Then I entered the grocery store. There I found an entire room filled with alcohol. Every kid passing by was alcohol browbeaten. Then I went to another grocery store. Same thing. More blatant alcohol browbeaten. Then a gas station. Same thing. Then a convenience store. Same browbeating, brainwashing situations, tactics. Then I went to a laundromat. Yep, more alcohol, browbeating, and brainwashing. Then I thought about what other alcohol-related things to which our children are constantly being subjected. Alcohol-related child abuse, alcohol-related spouse abuse, alcohol fetal syndrome, alcohol-related miscarriages and loss of possible brothers and sisters, alcohol-related vehicular accidents, alcohol-related loss of jobs for moms and dads, alcohol-related cancer, cirrhosis of the liver, alcohol-related suicides, alcohol-related crime, including murder. And the seemingly never-ending list just went on and on. And then, of course, to cap it off, what is the proverbial old cherry on top? Why, of course. How does our city celebrate the end of winter? That's right, with a drug alcohol festival. It is as if this is the cherry on top of the already alcohol-drenched Lander childhood experience. It is as if the adults of Lander are determined that, by George, when the children of Lander grow up, they will most definitely be the next generation of addicted alcohol consumers. Bless their hearts. The children of Lander truly do not have little more than a snowball's chance in hell. Does anyone care if alcohol kills 150,000 Americans each year? Does anyone care if, regarding all 50 states, Wyoming is in the forefront regarding per capita consumption of alcohol? Does anyone care if Wyoming leads the nation in suicides? And yes, there is a link between the two. So regarding the consumption of alcohol, who exactly is doing the browbeating? Me, with my tiny 3-minute, once a month little speeches? Or are the true browbeaters the hundreds of alcohol pushers who, regarding alcohol, accost, mug, ambush, brainwash, browbeat? And if all of that is not enough, these adults encourage people to bring children to a drug festival. So this led me to my search of Wyoming statutes, and my guiding question was, is it required for city councils in Wyoming to automatically authorize the use of every liquor license available to their city? The answer I found might surprise you. No. Under Wyoming law, city councils and other local licensing authorities are not required to issue every liquor license available under the population formulas. Wyoming statute specifically says, quote, nothing in this title prohibits a licensing authority from issuing less than the total number of allowable liquor licenses or from refusing to issue any license or permit authorized by this title. So the state sets the maximum number of licenses a city may issue based largely on population, but the city council can choose to issue all of them, issue only some of them, or issue none of a certain category. For example, a city might decide there are already enough bars. I think we got enough bars. Golly. Additional licenses would negatively affect downtown. They already do. You kidding me? They already do. Public opposition exists. That's me, public opposition right here. Or demand simply is not there. I don't see anybody running around going, we need more alcohol, we need more alcohol. There's no public demand. I haven't heard of that. Wyoming statutes such as 12-4201 and 413 establish the population-based caps, but they do not compel cities to fill every available slot. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Woolmine. Anyone else for a public comment on this?
Michelle Motherway, representing Mr. D's Food Center, and I would love to welcome the Spriggs to a brick and mortar business in our vicinity. They are an upstanding family. I've done business directly with Wind River Pizza. They've been on our parking lot as a food truck, and they are wonderful people, and I'm really excited to have them in the neighborhood and in the community, and I definitely support them opening their pizzeria and enjoying a beverage with them sometime.
Great. Thank you for your comments, Ms. Motherway. Anyone else?
Council Ron Hansen. I too support Mr. Spriggs in his endeavor. As opposed to some of the comments made earlier, I now understand that I am a purveyor of browbeating, but appreciate the comment, disagree with it wholeheartedly. I actually think this is the most addictive drug for kids. But anyway, in a town that touts economic development, and we have a lot of businesses up and down Main Street, buildings that are empty, this is one blight that won't be. And we need it. We have a lot of tournaments, activities, sports activities, travel through town. The number one thing that we always hear about is no restaurants. So we have somebody that's willing to put forth the effort and the investment. I think we should give them a chance and let them see what they can do. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Anyone else?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Karen Wetzel, Lander. I kind of agree with Mr. Woolwine. I think we have enough liquor licenses in town, but I sway a little bit on where those licenses should be. A bar and restaurant that's providing that service to people to come in and eat. Sometimes people like to have a drink a beer or a glass of wine when they go sit down to eat. I don't think we need to have so many alcohol stores spread all over the neighborhood. Convenience stores, gas stations, even the grocery stores, especially when they deliver it to alcoholics, which a lot of them do. The stores deliver to people when they started doing it when COVID was here, and they're still doing it today. They deliver alcohol to people that shouldn't be receiving alcohol. How do I know? My brother's an alcoholic, and he's been removed from his apartment several times. He doesn't live here anymore due to his alcoholism and taken to the hospital, and then they would release him again, and back home he went. They would deliver two, I don't know what the big bottles are, liter or 2-liter bottles of whiskey to him every time they delivered his food. He bought more alcohol than he did food. That's not the fault of the grocery store or the corner store, but we do have a lot of places in town that serve alcohol. I am not familiar with grocery stores and corner stores serving alcohol. I am familiar with restaurants serving alcohol. Just my point of view.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Add in your comments, Ms. Wetzel. Anyone else? Mr. Fable is coming up to the microphone. Let's let him speak, please.
Mayor and council, my name is Brian Fable, Lander Chamber of Commerce.
Can you get a little closer to the microphone, please, so folks can hear, especially for our recording or folks online?
Is that better?
Thank you.
I would just say this type of establishment that's bootstrapped from local community is exactly the type of investment that we want to see, and hope that you look favorably upon this application. It's if we could do anything, we'd want to see more people doing things like this. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Woolwine, do you have new information to add?
Yeah.
Okay,
I just want to clarify.
thank you.
I love pizza. I love restaurant. Lemonade, Perrier. I mean, all that kind of stuff. Just don't need more alcohol. We just don't need it. If the pizza's good, they'll make it. If the pizza's no good, they won't, but they don't need the alcohol to make it.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Any other public comment? Okay, with that, 6:17, we will close the public hearing. Next up is communication from the floor. Please approach the microphone, state your full name for the record. This meeting and comments are electronically recorded. All comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Anyone interested in public comment?
Janelle Lander, Wyoming. I wanted to make a little bit of a comment about this 9G that you are changing resolution 1831 to 1835 on the 3/4% sales tax. I spoke today with a commissioner, and there is not a MOU drawn up yet on how the money is going to be handled, who's going to handle it, or who is going to distribute it. I feel that elected officials should be responsible for that, not an independent board who would change hands whenever they have the urge not to be on the board anymore. I think that elected officials should be responsible and answerable to the citizens on this kind of a tax if it passes. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Hahn. I appreciate that. As a FYI, I'm hoping to have the MOA on the May 26th agenda to flesh out, and the current iteration does have it not going through FCAG. So I think what's currently being written is more the accountability you're looking for.
It may not be going through FCAG, but is it going through the board that drew up the proposals on the percentages on who gets what? Because that is not designated. It's not on the ballot initiative. And I feel it should be the county commissioners who handle that money. How can you make a decision on passing a resolution to put it on the ballot when you don't even know what it is? How do the citizens know what it's going to be? How can you do that 2-3 weeks ahead of even having an MOA, MOU to know who's going to be distributing those funds. Just saying.
Thank you. Appreciate your feedback.
Hi, Paula McCormick here with the Lander Old Timers Rodeo Association. I just wanted to let you know that I am available here today. If there were any questions, there'll be a staff report that will talk about the rodeo grounds. And so I am available. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on public comment?
I'm back. Again, I'm always second. I agree with Janelle. I don't believe that the spending of the money should be given to a volunteer organization or anybody that has interest in how that money is being spent, because I believe those three people do. I believe that money should be overseen by the commissioners or even the council, whoever's going to be giving it out, not go to some group of people that said, okay, I'll spend the money for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on public comment? Yes.
Michelle Motherway, I have two things. I just was out at the softball fields and the Lander varsity girls are playing their last two home games today and they beat Rollins 6-2
Nice.
in the first few.
It's awesome.
And thank you for the council for supporting that. It was exciting. The second thing I'd like to discuss is 11 unfinished business action under Title T2. When I first read Title II, I was terrified and I think that I was terrified, hopefully unintentionally by you folks, for the consequences of our local business. The amount of work done to this point is a testament to many of the people on the council. And I recently met with Chad and Julia to discuss the proposed amendments that are being brought today and or tonight. And I just would like to say a little bit about that. Mr. Dan Hahn had text a bunch of us a very simplified version of what T2 could look like. And the two councilmen, Chad and Julia, took a lot of that and really took a lot of the unnecessary words out of it, which I think is a great thing, and some of the things that were very redundant. A lot of the stuff in T2 is still very redundant. It's all state statute, as Chief Watt likes to point out, and replaced into our city ordinance. At the end of that meeting, I was very happy with the pared down version that it is, taking out a lot of the things that we've had concerns about. But I was asked, is this survivable? By Mrs. Struble, sorry. And I don't know if that's how we want to govern our city. Is this make an ordinance that you ask the business, is this survivable? Instead of asking them, is this helpful? Is this business friendly? Is this going to help another small business or help our community in any way? Instead of, is this survivable? The original document was not survivable, and that was a point that I made. But I left there, and I left there happy, and I left there thankful, but I left there very stricken by the, is this survivable step? Do we want to, and should the council be making things that are just survivable, or should they be making things that help a business and Lander thrive? And does T2, as it stands right now, do that? It definitely addresses the one bad actor in a punitive way. It definitely gives teeth, as we've said many times, to some things. And is it survivable? My answer was yes. But is that how we want to be as a community, doing things that are survivable? So I appreciate wholeheartedly the time, and I was very pleased with the efforts done, and I like the way that it is written. But I would ask, is it your goal to make it just survivable? So I would encourage you to look into your hearts and determine whether you want to be that council person. And if you don't, vote to table this. And if you're okay with just survivable, then go ahead and vote for it to move forward. And I would be okay with either one. But I just want to make sure that we know we're doing the best thing, and making more rules and more laws is not necessarily the best thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Okay, seeing no one moving toward the floor, we'll move for mayor and council updates. Councilmember Larson, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things. Went to the senior center today and just a couple things there. For those that are addicted to the senior center cinnamon rolls, they're gonna be going down to just once a month during the summertime, and I was not able to find out what Wednesday that was gonna be. But anyway, it'll be once a month and $5 a piece for the cinnamon rolls. Another very interesting fact that come out was during this last tax season, there were 305 people that had their tax returns done there at the senior center, which generated refunds of $458,916. You know, now that's pretty impressive for a volunteer group of tax preparers there at the senior center. You know, so I think that they deserve a pat on the back for that. That's all I got, Mayor. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Cassidy.
Yes, Mayor, staff, apologies, I wasn't here last week. I was sick for almost 2 weeks. Just two brief updates. One, would like to say thank you to the city treasurer. I had probably almost 2 hours yesterday morning, had a great opportunity to meet and to dig into some details on some of the documents that were presented to us. And I just want to say thank you for that time. And then on the planning commission, just one thing to share with everybody here. Thursday last, I believe it was. If you get a chance to take a look at the video, you might be pleased with what you see. There was something that was probably fairly mundane, I would say. An approval of a change was requested. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Regine. And there were a couple people, one, maybe two, that just didn't feel like they had enough information. And they were, I would say they showed the courage to just ask for more time instead of letting it go without a clear understanding what they were doing. From what we can tell, it's not going to make any difference other than probably educating those folks that are on that commission, which is probably in everybody's best interest, right? So really great of them to do that, to slow things down, just to understand it a little bit better, bring them up to speed with some things that there's deep resident knowledge in this room about, and share that information across everybody, and then give them a better sense of comfort with the decisions that they have to make. So just applaud the planning commission last Thursday. That's all for me.
Great, thank you. I'd be remiss to let the next person go without noting that tomorrow marks your 1-year anniversary of joining us up here. So congratulations, and we're glad to have you. It's been a good year. Yeah. Hey, Councilmember Hahn.
Okay, I want to bring something up from last meeting that bothered me. This farthing slip versus flood mitigation. At the last meeting, city staff talked about the farthing slip from City Park to the farthing slip, which is north of Lander on the Poposia River. To me, this is flood design, not farthing slip. And the farthing slip, if you don't know where this is, it's where the bank is caving off. When you turn and go on 789 to go to Riverton, it's a big cliff. If you see it from the bottom, it's scary. If you were on top, it's really crazy. But anyway, this is about flood mitigation to me, hidden behind the farthing slip name. This is the way I think. Then they talked about land taking, probably just a few properties, they say. I did not like that. I have talked to some of the landowners. One owner feels threatened and harassed by the city. He's retained an attorney, and he's heard things were said to him like eminent domain, and he's scared of the city. This guy spent 3 years fighting to keep his property. The problem I see here is FEMA kind of slipped away and it's been quiet for a couple of years and now we're coming back. And, I'm hearing the same things and it was a pretty big fight for 3 years with all this flood mitigation. A lot of people don't like it, including two of our past mayors that they were not for major flood mitigation. These guys, and I was on board when they were doing this, they used temporary barriers as they needed them and where they needed them. And it was when we were flooding, and they never talked about taking property. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I think this is wrong, and I want everybody to know that I have never, ever been on board with this, and I'm totally against it. And if you don't remember, 3, 4, 5 years ago, this was about flood mitigation, but it was also about taking a trailer park and turning it into a park and bike paths and different things like that. So I never was on board. And to tell you the truth, I thought since FEMA's out of the loop with all the small stuff. They're handling, we've had so many big floods that they're handling the 500-year plus. And so it'll probably be a long time for us. But I don't have a problem with flood mitigation personally. But when you're talking about taking somebody's property, and like I said, I talked to these people several years ago, and even the people, none of them felt threatened by the water, any of the water that they've seen, and they were personally willing to risk whatever happens. So anyway, that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Cox.
All right, thank you, Mayor. I do have a couple of updates. One is sitting on the LEDA or as the liaison to the LEDA board, there's the Wyoming Outdoor Weekend Expo this weekend, the 15th and it is going to be the 15th and 16th this weekend. This weekend, the 15th and 16th. It's really a neat event. If anybody has time to head up there, it's at the community center. They offer, education, booths. There's just it's a robust weekend. The other the other update I have is for the chamber. I've been very impressed with the chamber. Most recently, Brian Fable is back as the director and has done a really good job, in my opinion, of engaging the council and just informing us about what's happening and in a much different way. And I really do appreciate that effort and that engagement. I think it helps bridge some gap between our business community as well as our council, and keeping us informed is always helpful. Even if we might know some of the things you're talking about, we don't always. Also the chamber is handing off the administration of the lander portion of the lodging tax, and there will be several discussions as that happens with the chamber and the city and deciding how that will move forward. They're going to be operating our visitor center and really focusing on how they engage and how they enhance the local businesses here in town. So I think they have some good goals, and they're already ticking off the to-do list on how to make those things happen. So I guess I'd really like to, number one, just highlight the improved communication, and then all the work that the chamber's doing, not only on behalf of businesses, but also a city as a larger entity. I want to highlight city staff and their communication. I've had some personal business with them recently, and you always know it's like, yeah, you're a city council member, so you might get treated a little different. I didn't get the sense that there was any special treatment. It was very, and it was good treatment, but I didn't get the sense that it was like, oh, because it was just like standard operating procedure. You come in, this is what we have available. Here's the paperwork. Here's how you do it. Maybe you should. The other thing is, I should have read the instructions and I would have known what to do versus, but they were very helpful and didn't say anything about that. So that was nice. I want to highlight the chief's communication, specifically as it relates to the student or the school resource officer position. There was some concern about that more recently, and it was really nice to receive an email that's like, hey, here's where we're at. I think that was really valuable. And I really love real-time communication because I think that's where we thrive as a council and where we're more prepared. As far as community support, one thing that comes to mind, especially Mr. Woolwine speaks and then community members come up and speak on topics that are important to them. And I think that while we aren't always going to agree, it's nice to hear, regardless of your stance. I do appreciate it and value it. I want to acknowledge new businesses in town. If you haven't eaten at the Ella restaurant that's located where the old
Great things.
Domino's is, it's good, very friendly, super cute. They named the business after their daughter. She's actually adorable and maybe should be on TV. And there was another one and then I totally lost it. But anyway, that was my update. And then follow up on Title II. I think, Chief, you might be prepared to provide some data of any establishments that have had violations or what that kind of looks like, but when the time is right. That was my only other addition to my update. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Stubble.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have updates from the committees I'm a liaison to, other than a very short one for Energy and Efficiency Task Force, Energy and Environment Task Force, I'm sorry, working on efficiency. There's a lot of ease. They're still running through bills, thanks to staff for providing information so they can create an audit and check in on our goals around reducing emissions and finding efficiencies and saving money. So we'll see that report after they do a lot of number crunching, I imagine. So not much else to report from those committees, but I'll pick up on the theme of communication and hopefully not be redundant with my fellow council people. But I'll just say, gosh, it's fantastic to have all of you in the audience and those who will listen online later or are on that right now and who were commenting. You know, we can't do our jobs unless we hear from you, incorporate your feedback and are responsive to what we hear. And so thank you for letting us, serve here and make sure that we craft the best policies because of your input. Mr. Woolwine, it's great to see you back at the mic. Thank you to everybody else who maybe spoke for the first time or hasn't spoken recently. Keep coming back, bring friends. Because we can't do this in a black box. That's not what democracy is about. Self-governance is self-governance for a reason. So please keep showing up. I'll also give a shout out to the Lore Foundation, who had a celebration this last Saturday. Many of you might have been there, of the immense amount of contributions that people in Lander were able to enact because of Lore's funding. And I want to highlight, our deep gratitude, of course, from the community wide and the wall of the amount of ideas that came forth from people in Lander, people in the community outside of city limits, but all of Lander. Brought forward and said, I have an idea, let's do this. This is something that can help others. This can improve something, and Lore helped get it done. But it was those ideas and those people who stepped forward that actually drove that process. So just immense gratitude for folks who are willing to step up to the plate and identify something and come up with a solution, and then Lore for making it happen. I'll highlight that for the city of Lander itself, thanks for Assistant Mayor for crunching some numbers for me on this. The city infrastructure, city services, mostly parks and recreation, benefited from 20 projects that people brought forward to help us out. And the Lore investment was recorded about just over $300,000. Those are mostly, again, parks and rec related services or infrastructure improvements. And so we've certainly been able to do a better job of providing the parks and rec that our community deserves and wants because of Lore's boost there as well. And there was some funding for other events, including Wings and Wheels and Pig Roast. And then fingers crossed, we still have a few funding pending requests with them. They're here for 2 more months. So if you've been mulling an idea, sitting an idea, or one just popped up about something Lander needs, they're here. Their office, I think, is still on 4th Street. So find them online and let's get it done, because we'll say goodbye to them, with deep gratitude and perhaps a little bit of regret that they couldn't stay forever. So thank you to Lore. Thank you also for those conversations I've had, Ms. Motherway, Ms. Alexander, lots of others, Mr. Fable, in the last few weeks too, because speaking up here helps us out a great deal and actually really hashing through ideas and having deep conversation and back and forth dialogue before the meeting is also immensely valuable. And I'll do a special shout out to the liquor license holders who have kept showing up for the last 9 months at least, as we've worked through these ideas. So you've been investing a great deal of your time and attention while you're trying to keep a business thriving, and I really appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Hahn.
Yes, I have two things, concerns brought to me by the public. First one being the fee schedule. It's affecting local businesses. They're getting a long period of wait after filling out the forms to have an inspection done. So then creating a customer unhappy with the people doing the work because the work isn't getting completed in a fashionable manner. We have 2 qualified people that are able to do the inspections. I'm just trying to figure out what's causing these long delays. One guy's waited 7 weeks. I think that's a little extreme. And they're honestly, they're afraid to come and talk to the city staff due to repercussions on their businesses and creating further issues with, what they're doing and how it's all working with this fee schedule. Do we have any answers on why the delay?
Yeah, I'd love to get more information. If you can provide specifics, or maybe we can get together, I can look.
I don't
into
throw
that.
names out there.
Okay.
You should
well,
know who they are, I think.
I guess I can look into it. I don't. Most of our response times are less than 24 hours, I've been told. And so, as
Okay,
far
you've been
as,
told wrong.
okay,
Yes.
so we can look into that if I
Okay.
have some information to go off of that I can look into.
Yeah, maybe look back at the paperwork or something. I'm not spitting names out. I'm not spitting companies out there. That's not how I work. Second thing being, what is going on with the 0.5% sales tax? It was brought to my attention. We have some drainage issues at the softball field that they were told can't be mitigated, and to apply for the 0.5% sales tax to get new softball fields at your new park. So what do we got going on there?
I think that's going to come up for discussion later today. The 0.5 cent is your guys' direction as far as what you want to do. The softball drainage issues
Yes.
are ponding that's not going away on the Memorial Field. And that's on the school district property. So we talked about a
Okay.
ditch or a pipe.
Yes.
And I think we need to figure out who and how, and then if the field can, temporarily we're keeping the field going, but if we can permanently figure out a solution.
2 trees and a light pole in between. It goes past the dugout right in there. That's where you would put a drainage. It
We
seemed
would
like.
take the drainage, the low point is over off the corner Memorial, back behind where the school drains, the parking lot and the building all to one spot. There's a low point. We
Okay.
need to get that low point to the ditch across the field.
Yes.
And so we're looking at around the field or a way to get it to have enough slope to get through it. We're proposing a solution, but this is the question for you guys. How much do you want to invest city money on the school district property? What money do you want to invest into this? Is the 0.5 cent money you want to invest? Is it general fund money?
Sure. Have
You
we
know-
talked to the school district at all about?
Yeah, they were at the
little
meeting.
help? I know they're tight on cash.
They're
coming
very
up.
tight on cash. And that's the issue, like what's the infrastructure do we save? What infrastructure do we build in a new location? Is 0.5 cent money we could maybe use on field development, or what do you guys want to do with that money? So I
just
think that's
it-
some of the question that we have.
Kind of
more
odd
than
using
anything.
0.5% sales tax at a park that's, we've been talking about getting going and stuff. It seems, it's like, hey, we could start our new park by using 0.5% sales tax kind of thing, in my mind. That's how I look at it.
And I think the benefit of putting a softball field at the new parks versus this park is the soil conditions.
Yes.
You got really good structural stable soil. And if we're doing a rebuild of dugouts and fences and everything, where would you rather put it? So the question is where, if we're going to do new and more, where at?
That'd be a long temporary thing. I mean, no dirt work's done down there or anything.
We're gonna
so
buy
if it-
time on this one as long as
Yeah.
possible, but I'd love to get it drained before we do anything more because it's moving. And so I think the idea
Okay.
is let's fix the drainage issue, the underground issue, and then see if we can sustain and maintain the field, but
Okay. So
work on
that's the
long-term
first field
solutions.
on that's the first field you come to.
The last
It's
field.
The or it depends on which.
Which way
you
you're
come
coming in,
guess,
yeah, yeah, so,
Easternmost.
yeah, the one closest to the highway, you
Yeah.
know, is, and closest to the soccer field.
Okay. Now, do the big kids play on that field? I know the little
They
ones do.
practice on that field and the
Okay.
little T-ballers play on that field. They have 170 kids right now playing recreation softball on those
Yes.
fields. And so
Mine's
they,
one of 'em.
and we're worried because the concrete is heaved. The last thing we want is something to fall over and hurt somebody or somebody to
Mhm.
hit concrete. So we're working at temporary solutions now. Like, how do we save this season? Work on the long-term goals. And I mean, I'd love to have more. There's a lack of fields. So taking a one away doesn't help us. Adding more does. You
Yeah.
know, it's just, what do we want to build? What do we want to look at?
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I'll look into your other issue and see what I can find out.
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And I'll reach out directly if I can figure it out.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Great, thank you. A few things from my end. I want to echo the impact of the Lure event, both those who attended as well as what they've done for our community. And I also want to highlight a comment that their executive director, Gary Wilmot, has made about, and I say this because I think it's a narrative that I will keep harping on, that we need to change. There is a comment that is often said that nobody wants to volunteer anymore. And I call hooey on that. What Lure has done is a great example of that, with appropriate support, a compelling mission, and financial assistance if needed. People are willing to step up and help. And I think that's really important. And I think that's also indicative of the Lander community. So when you hear folks say things like, you know, these are national headlines, no one wants to volunteer anymore. No way, that is not who Lander is. And I think it's really important to not let that narrative affect how Lander operates, because I see a really strong community there. And that's one of the things Mr. Wilmot is really proud of. It's not necessarily a dollar amount. It's that 500 people have stepped up and said, I've got an idea. Let's make Lander better. And that's really the shining example, which I think is awesome for that. Want to remind council, we have the opportunity to have our social hour with the WAM board and other folks on Thursday. If you've not RSVP'd for that, please do for that. We'd love to see that. I mentioned earlier that the conversation about the MOA is going to come before us, I hope, on the May 26th meeting, to look at what is the best structure that we can be supportive of in terms of how's the money flow managed, the distribution percentages, et cetera, for that. So look for that coming. Want to note that it's been great seeing a variety of folks coming to pick up filing information for whatever seats are open, which is great. And then lastly, a bit of a follow-up to what Councilmember Cox mentioned, and this likewise will have a kind of a acceptance of this letter from the chamber, which is the chamber's decided to end the MOU between the city and the chamber. But we want to both acknowledge the partnership that will continue with that. And Mr. Fable, we'd love to have a conversation with you in the near future about what elements of that we want to keep in place, because I think there are some we want to still acknowledge. And maybe it's not in a formal MOU, but some kind of acknowledgement of the roles we play with each other for that. So thank you for that. Great. With that, I will pass it over to staff, starting with you, Chief Wah.
Mayor, council, thanks. Busy, we're busy. I covered a lot with bringing on a new admin assistant of some of the things that I wanted to change and move forward, and she's hit the ground running. Our records is all changed, how we release records, how they're tracked, the workflow's all changed. We now officially are starting to report to NIBRS, which we've never done before, the National Incident-Based Reporting System through the FBI. Where that's impactful mostly is if you look at a lot of the grants moving forward, they ask you if you report to NIBRS, if you report to the feds about our crime statistics. We are now doing that. Having Rachel in Monday through Friday, we've reduced our daily dispatching services by 25% through the county. We're taking care of a lot of it ourselves in our own front office, which is pretty impactful. Our mobile data terminals are up and running. We have new printers that go in the cars with them that print 8.5 by 11. So it's upping the efficiency of them being in the cars and being able to print all the things they need right from their car, finish things in the car. It's reducing the back and forth from the office. Lots of one-on-one meetings by myself have been made available with Captain Martson coming on. I've sat with DFS, I've sat with Sage West, I've sat with Juvenile Justice. I've started sitting with a lot of these groups to try and mend the relationships. And by mend, they're not bad, they're just non-existent. So trying to get to the table together again and how we work together and how us as the criminal justice whole can come together and work cases together, which has been really, really great. Captain Martson and myself are headed to the Post Commission next Wednesday to meet with them about the new CWC Academy being approved through Post to help move that stuff forward. So lots of stuff. We've done 5 TIPS trainings and taught 48 people since we've brought on TIPS trainers, and we're just moving, we're shaking, we're getting a lot done. Most importantly, it's National Police Week, so as you see our staff out, an extra thanks when you see them would be helpful this week. That's all I have unless anybody has any questions.
Any questions for the chief? Okay, thank you, chief. Lance, we'll move on to you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Just a few construction updates. Lincoln Street, we're thinking around the 4th of July, hopefully for completion there. And that's substantial completion. That would be concrete paved, not all the little items outside of that, but functional as a driving street. If they're running a little bit late, for the 4th of July, they won't get into 9th Street or leave it in a condition that it's accessible for the parade and people to get around and leave the road open. So if it finishes just a couple weeks after that, then that's a good thing to get that project completed and behind us. Construction seems to be going a lot better this year, and they're using some different means and methods that and ran into some different materials that make things a little bit more easy to construct in those areas. We should see after the 4th of July, most likely Buena Vista start. And so that's when our contractor is going to come to town and do a certain portion of work, starting from the highway, working up. We don't have their official schedule yet, but that's the information that they gave us, some work this year and then finishing the project next year. And so they're aware of, the 4th of July as well, figured it'd be better to come in after and then have things functional for next year for the 4th of July, knowing that we have a lot of people that need to get up to the rodeo grounds and a lot of work to be done. It's going to be very challenging above our last subdivision streets as you get above the ditch to the hospital and the 1-lane traffic. So it's a lot to manage. We have a bid opening this week for the apron project. So we'll see where that comes in at. A little worried. There's not a ton of competition in the airport world for airport projects. Usually we get Century, that bids our jobs and they do a lot of airport projects, but we're able to use a state spec on asphalt, and hopefully we have a couple local bidders that would be interested in, the apron portion of that project. The runways have to stay a different spec there, but we'll see what happens. Happy to report back on what price we get there. We're on for a 4%, match in that project, the 96% covered by federal and state dollars on those projects. So took a look at Baldwin Creek today. Those drawings are pretty polished. With a Baldwin Creek project, we're thinking this fall on that. It includes a reconfiguration at the Sweetwater and 9th intersection for safety, taking that to a 4-way stop rather than 5 can't see in any direction, crosswalks at that location, reducing some of the mid-block crosswalks. So happy to go over that design with you guys if you have questions at a work session before we put it out for bid. But we're transferring the urban system money that is available to Baldwin Creek. So we're in the process of submitting those drawings to YDOT for their review. That makes it a federal dollars project because that's money that passes through YDOT that we can use. And that's about $1 million. So it's worth getting that put on that project. The rest is going to be our grant loan forgiveness program on that project. And then 5th Street's the other one that we're still polishing up to hopefully put out for bid. But that's a lot of construction that we have to think about on how much we're shutting down next summer. Still trying to make sure we have enough contractors available to bid our jobs and available to do work, as well as being responsible to allow traffic to get around town as well as emergency vehicles. So lots of construction going on. The parking lot project, at the park is looking really good by 71 construction. The water line portion looping is completed. That should increase flows connected from First Street to Poor Farm Road. So Viper did that project for us, did a great job. And then seeing that project progress along and building up. So, that'll leave us in a based parking lot for now, not a completed paved portion, but provides better access, provides utilities, improves connections underground, and connects Jefferson over to Poor Farm.
Great.
So happy to answer any questions. We had Visionary in town doing a lot of boring work. So if you're seeing trucks and bore crews every which direction, that's fiber that was going in underground. The subcontractor pulled out today because they realized how rocky and terrible our soils are. And so I don't know who they're going to get to come back, but every time somebody gets in here, it's not like any other place that they've ever worked. I mean, it's the boulders, cobbles, or extreme clay conditions that they run into around town. And these contractors who've worked everywhere else come in and they're just shocked that they can't use typical means and methods underground in Lander. So sometimes we pay a little bit more for construction projects, but we're dealing with a heck of a lot more underground. So I'm sure they're gonna have to find somebody else to continue that project, but it's been tons of locates and work for us. That's an exciting project if they do start getting fiber to houses within the community for people to buy that, but we'll see how they move forward.
Yeah. Having dug a number of fence post holes and deck footers, I'm on the old riverbed. It's a project. We'll say that. Lance, I did have one, not so much a question, but if you could do an explanation. I know some folks in the community are curious about how are these like short patches of asphalt happening around town? What's that process versus street overhaul? Can you give a quick high level view about what the streets crew is trying to do with that?
Sure. I think that those are just areas of, extreme wear, a lot of alligating that's going on underneath. Those aren't structural repairs. Those are temporary pavement to go over the top of what's existing, knowing that we have a fairly solid base and that those reflective cracks are eventually going to show through. So we're buying time in those areas so that it doesn't go to potholes or complete dirt, just thin, when we've got to do those when it's warm, and they're very thin overlays, trying to be conservative about what we do, but smoothing things out, trying to prevent water from infiltrating more into those cracks and destroying more asphalt. But they're, methodical, but they're not the replacement plan of the overall structure. I mean, in a lot of those areas, we still have underground issues trying to address, the bigger projects and come in with good fabric base, 3 inches of asphalt, something we can work with in the future. And a lot of those areas, if we go pull the asphalt, you'll find that they're probably a half an inch to an inch thick in spots where we didn't get proper thickness of pavement. So
Yeah.
it's just, they're Band-Aids is what they are.
And in terms of source of asphalt, I think you mentioned at one point in a staff meeting about this is, we're trying to also be economical with that. So when there's additional asphalt left from a project, that's how we're sourcing it. So we're keeping the cost down.
Yeah, we're allowed to put up to 20% recycled asphalt pavement back into our pavement. So we're allowing that maximum. And so we're getting some of the return of what we're taking off the streets being put back in. We're also looking at using that material in some of our dirt parking lots, dirt roads, trying to put it down and provide extra thickness and stability. Those can work as long as they're not a lot of turns and a lot of weight on those roads. And they work well with providing a chip over the top of some of those asphalt, recycled asphalt pavement parking lots.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Other questions? Councilman Cassidy.
Can you go back to the airport comment? You said that it's a 4% city, remainder state fed. That 4%, just roughly how much is that in dollars?
So I think the engineer's estimate is 3 million on that job. You have that.
There's 3 million on this cover page. It's like 3.2. There's like 3.2 million on that cover sheet that we're going to go over later on. Is that ballparks?
That's the engineer's estimate and the money that we set aside. You have that.
There's about 90,000 is what I estimated that was going to be the 4% that yeah.
So that's out of 2.7. The 3.2 engineer's estimate's above what has been appropriated for the project.
Right.
So there's a shortfall. What we did is that we bid this in different pieces that it could be put together so that we don't over award the project. So it has multiple phases and alternatives in the project and not to exceed the amount that we have and can fund.
The total cost of the total project?
That's the 3.2 the engineer's estimating at this point, which is above our original estimated amount. So it's
Okay.
2.7, right?
But the whole project is 3.2. But part of that has already come out of this fiscal year. And
Okay, I see. Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we'll let you know what we have funds for, and then maybe we aren't awarding or recommending to award everything right now unless we want to look where those dollars will come from.
Okay.
So we'll have a discussion about it depending on where it is. We're hoping for good numbers and under budget.
Yeah, good deal. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Councilmember Stubble.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Lance. This might be something you punt over to Regine instead, but I was curious if we could have an update on the Indian relay race fencing. Is that something we can comment, you can comment on tonight or? I'm sorry? Coming soon. Okay, we're figuring out the.
Nice segue.
Got it. Perfect.
If you don't mind, Councilmember Stupel, I'll do that in the order of the spreadsheet that I put it in the grant, but it is discussed as one of our lower grant asks. So I'd like to give you guys a grant application and award update. It is great to announce that the unmet housing needs, Lander was awarded $500,000 by the SLIB board. We had asked for $1 million. There was 22 asks for $53 million, and we got 500,000 of that. So we're happy with that. By resolution, you guys had asked us or authorized us to use 300,000 of 1% to be the match for that. So we now have $800,000 over the next 2 years to put in city right-of-way infrastructure. It will mostly be ADA sidewalk, curb and gutter, to be quite frank. But now through a subdivision or a building permit process, we have some funding that we can help incentivize infill development. So that was great. The next one that we're applying for is the Wyoming Outdoor Recreation Trust Tourism Fund. And that is designing a fish pond at City Park. That is part of our 2025 master plan that you guys saw in the conceptual drawing. So that's where that's coming from. This round of that is for design. We hope if that goes well and we're awarded for that, the next round of that would be for actual construction of the pond in the next grant season. So that's why I have 27, 28 there in the fiscal year for construction. North Park ball field fencing. This is a LORE project. Again, thanks to LORE for everything they've done for the city of Lander. This is trying to make the North Park ball field more suitable towards the high school softball team. So it's moving the fence back. That's one that is already actually been awarded, but we haven't signed the contract yet. Trail at City Park. That is, again, part of our strategic plan for our core and our infrastructure projects and our 2025 recreation plan that you guys approved. That will go ahead, that the Montana Conservation Corps will come in and they'll do the materials and the labor for that for the amount of the LORE grant. So that's something where we're going to get trails down in City Park for $0 Lander dollars because LORE is funding the entire project. The next one is the Indian relay fencing safety upgrade. Again, we've asked LORE for that under our infrastructure maintaining facilities under the strategic plan. The cost estimates for that came in much higher than we can get grant funding for. The LORE is willing to do $10,000. The LOTRA board, and Paul is here if we have any questions, the LOTRA board has passed through their board a $5,000 contribution So that's fabulous. And the city of Lander Facilities was going to do $5,000. So we have $20,000 of grant or infrastructure funding available to us, but the infrastructure costs for that are $70,000. So we're $50,000 short. It's not in this year's budget. It's not in next year's budget of making the Indian relay fencing as safe as we would like it to be. So, and I'll segue into Lance. Lance was talking about where can that $50,000 come from? Again, you guys ask, where are the ED funds going to be spent? Where are the 1% funds spent? Where are our carryover funds going to be spent? So staff has a few ideas of where that can come from.
Yes, thanks, Regine. I guess we opened up that discussion with half cent already earlier today. So we'd love as council, that's ED funds, if this is, going to an event and if this is worth preserving, our past as we move into the future, as our mission states, it'd be nice to have you guys discuss if that would be an appropriate place to, start using some of those half cent funds on a project like this. Alternatively, I think that we have to start looking at our general fund reserve or other places. Those are the tax dollars we've set aside to, fund a project like this. So we just need direction. We set aside a certain amount of maintenance money every year, to replace different things for recreation. This one fits more events, as it is truly the kind of the 4th of July. This fencing gets used for the Indian relay race. So we used to have the chariot racing that happened there. As well. There's been discussion that event might be growing a little bit as far as who's competing in it, the numbers that are competing. So, we've made significant investments in, keeping the rodeo grounds, investments in the bleachers in the past. We found ways to make this work. So just need you guys to talk about what you want to direct here so that we know what we can do to move this forward and what your direction would be.
And I just might add that the reason that we're asking this in a staff update is because of the timing of the LURE funds, right? We only have a very short timing window to take advantage of that $10,000 that LURE is willing to give to this project. It would also be great if we could get some safety upgrades done for this year's rodeo and Indian relay set. So again, we're not asking for a vote, but we need a kind of a direction for where staff can pull the rest of this grant together.
And we really want to make this safe to keep pedestrians separated from the event. That's our biggest concern up there is that we build this correctly. I know this is a bit over cost of some of the Band-Aid solutions that we've discussed earlier, but we think this is, I asked Hunter to put together the do it right solution. Like what would we spend to go up there, have something secure that's going to last into the future and, protect the riders as well as the pedestrians during the event and is going to last. So that $70,000 might feel a bit high, but to make sure that we're doing what we can, that's the dollar amount that we came up with to provide a safe solution.
Yeah. So there had also been a conversation that not as ideal, but functional would carry a lower price tag. I think that was a total of about 40,000 is estimated cost. Is that correct?
That lower estimated cost is $44,000.
Yeah, and I guess to me that's when we talked with Adam, that was the liability solution. Do we want to, raise the fence height and, separate safety? And he's like, we have liability if we're not, doing this right once. And so that's why I asked Hunter, like, let's just come up with the $1 amount and maybe propose doing it right and doing it once instead of kind of adding to it or keep piecemealing it.
Yeah. So that's new information for me. So thanks for that. I bring that up because I can see a potential of doing something for this year and then that still makes it functional and then being able to dedicate funds in coming years for that, knowing that we have lots of projects for our infrastructure. And I know we've not had the conversation about our economic development residual funds of what to do with that. I understand, believe me, that we need to have that conversation. One of my thoughts on that is I would be interested in creating a corpus that every year we could have available funds because we know we're going to spend it down. If we didn't create that. So that might be yet another option. But going back to this in terms of, where council, where do you have a sense of, and and sorry, I want to be mindful of the time that it's already after 7 and we're not very far through our agenda tonight. In terms of, would you prefer to see this come from our maintenance line in our budget or another item? And Councilmember Hahn.
I think this is a great place to start. To tell you the truth, I've been really, and I want to really go into this, but to make it short, I've really been thinking about this. This money, Chad's got some great ideas. You know, the situation, originally I was thinking the airport because the airport's a good place to start. But then what I've been thinking is the airport is never going to end. And it is going to, whatever happens, we're going to be taking it out of the coffers to the local coffers to keep that going. So in my mind, and I'm hoping that we can get together on this and get very soon and try to figure something out. But there's so many different things that are getting in a bad way. You know, all these children functions and all this stuff that is coming down with all the funds that are falling apart through the school. Who's to say what that is? And to tell you the truth, like Lights On, which is a super, I mean, we can't go without that. But I think that, you know, I've changed my mind. I think this money should stay with the people and the kids and because if we gave the airport that money, they're going to burn through it, and then we're going to keep going. So this money should stay with our citizens, and this is a beautiful way to start right now. Is doing something for the rodeo grounds, and then hopefully in the near future we can discuss this. But anyway, that's my thought.
Okay. Councilmember Cassidy.
Can you say again, Regine, the timeline on those availability of those funds?
So we only have about a 2-week window to finish the application. But the fiscal year ends, of course, June 30th. So
Yeah.
you could give us direction, take some out of this year, take some out of next year, out of any of those pots of money, and then we would work for, and then you guys could have a formal decision later. I do want to mention, based on something that Councilman Hahn said, these are ED funds. So by ballot measure, they can only be used to create jobs, retain jobs, or bring in primary dollars. And according to all the testimony from LOTRA, the rodeo and the relay races bring in primary dollars and visitor dollars. So that's why we think it fits.
I have a comment though.
Okay.
Did we not, with that half cent, did we not put murals on buildings and do things that I thought were out of the scope of what the general public would consider economic development? I personally think, and if you're correct, that's fine if we can't use that, but I personally think the kids in our town are our future, and that is economic development, to tell you the truth.
I think she was agreeing with.
Yeah,
you.
I agree that it can
Yeah,
be spent.
it can be spent. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, I wasn't
I
arguing.
don't think we put murals though. That was
We did.
supported by.
Well, and if we
economic
need to do
development.
those kind of talks in a
Yeah,
work
since-
session, that's great.
Yeah. Since a place was labeled
did.
as economic development, but again, we're getting a bit tangential on that. So Councilmember Cassidy.
Very briefly, the reason I asked about the timeline is if there's only 2 weeks before that window closes, can we get whatever you require as soon as possible, whatever we need to do with our calendar to make that happen for you?
You guys already have this in your strategic plan, right?
Yes.
We're already looking for recreation. We're already looking for generating revenue. So as a strategic plan measure, there's no vote that needs to be taken. Staff tonight is looking for direction on should it come out of this year's funds, next year's funds, and is the ED pot a possibility?
Okay. To that end, I was just doing some thought to try to move this along. What would y'all think if we took 25 from the residual economic development that can be used right away, 12.5 from this year's budget for building and maintenance, and 12.5 from FY27 for that? Does something like that kind of register?
I would counter you with all of it from the economic development, all that is required from Lance, because this is the definition of what that money was for. It's very clear. And so I would say, let's do it from the 1.75.
Yeah, and I get that. It's more that I'm a little leery about starting to do total allocations from it without having had a broader plan for what to do with that.
So Mayor,
that-
if I
that's why
may.
I'd look for a combination of the different funding sources.
Mhm.
So,
If I may. I think those are all great topics for our future work session. I think I'd like a council head nod that if you think this is important enough to invest the full safety fixes for the Indian relays fencing, we'd like a head nod that yes, you will help us find the money.
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
that's pretty,
All right,
Definitely.
okay,
Thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
yeah.
the mayor told me I was on a time frame, so.
That was an important tangent, or not a tangent, it's an important discussion point. So, but we'll let you get back to your.
Okay, the next LORE grant that you have on your list there, we put in an application for LORE, not from the local officer, but from the LORE National Funds down in Denver. And that is potentially $30,000 to put towards a community center recreation facility feasibility study, similar to what Riverton did. Again, this one, we have put in next year's budget. So I just wanted to let you know that grant application is going forward. And if you approve the budget in June, before June 30th, then that $45,000 has already been asked for in the budget that you were presented when Christie presented the first budget. Okay. We are still doing some energy efficiency upgrades through Wylight. This go around, we wouldn't get any money. We would ask for audits on specific buildings. The way the Wylight works, we get an audit on 2 to 3 facilities, and then we spend the next 2 years application actually getting them money to perform the processes. That is how Public Works just got re-insulated, new windows. That's how the senior center got new HVAC and stuff. So that's just a continual thing that we do every year. We are asking for lighting upgrades at the senior center. That facility, our facility, of course, is 30 some years old, and the lighting is not only outdated, but when we went through the LED lighting upgrades for City Hall, terminals, police department, fire hall, we missed the senior center. So we've gone through a WattSmart program. Again, I did ask for this in next year's budget, so Christie already had it in a line item. That $15,000 will come out of the endowment fund that the senior center already has. It's in a hold pattern for us, a restricted fund. And then we will get some incentive programs from WattSmart. Depot, Lander Depot, remember we did a spur project and they said this is what the depot could be. They gave us a lot of economic development ideas. We are going to proceed with the DEQ brownfields abatement of all the lead-based paint and the asbestos they found in that building. That is currently going to be covered by the state funding, $0 out of the city budget, just the abatement portion, okay? And then that opens us up in the future to do some economic development project or rental facility or something at the depot in future years. And the last one on my list here is flood mitigation. This is a FEMA combination building resilient communities and flood mitigation grant. It is a national federal grant. We've talked about applying for this before. We've applied for it and turned money back before as a council. So I just want to let you know that we are embarking on that process. When you do those federal grants, we have a deadline of June 23rd to the state. The state has their guidelines. It goes to the national level. It's probably 18 to 24 months before we see any action on a grant. So I just want to let you know we're starting that process. That's my grant update. If you don't have any other question, I just have 2 other quick announcements.
Okay. Any questions on the grants? Okay.
Okay.
Great.
You guys have one of these bookmarks in front of you. The Potters of the Wind Rivers wanted to both thank us and invite you to their ribbon cutting for the art in the park here at the Chamber Park. If you guys have driven by, the concrete's been poured and that statuary. You may have seen some of their art at the library. They're fabulous. That will be a ribbon cutting on the 6th, so they wanted to invite you to that. And that is all I have tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Christy.
For the most part, I've just kind of been working on budget information. And I do have some few notes just in case people had questions. And I did put something in y'all's box back here. I don't know if you guys knew that. Last Friday, I know Chad picked it up because he came and talked to me. As far as other things we're working on, Cassell has reached out to us and said they're moving all of their customers to a new hosting platform. So we're going to have to do some migration there. And in that transition, they also have cut off doing work with Express Bill Pay, which we use a lot to take credit card payments. So Danielle, Kevin, and I will do we'll have some meetings with Cassell and with Express Bill Pay and decide, do we really want to take all those customers off Express Bill Pay? Do we find a different way to get that information into Cassell? Because now it won't go automatically. But Cassell is also trying to push their new place to take credit cards. So we might have to do both for a while. We'll be looking into that in the next couple of weeks, and we'll have to report back on that. Does anybody have any questions about budget, or do we want to
We
talk
might have
about that
questions later on the budget itself, but let's save
Oh,
it for
good.
that.
Thank you.
Yep. But any other questions for Christy? Okay, great. Adam, this is your chance to say you have nothing to announce.
I have a 4-hour conversation I'd like to have with you all. No, I don't have anything tonight unless anyone has questions for me.
No. And Rochelle?
2 things. We had a great response to seasonal applications. We are full except for a couple of cemetery maintenance hires, so that's great. It's the strongest year that I've seen since being here, so that was great. The second thing is that election filing opens the 14th. So if anyone is interested in running for council in Ward 1, Ward 2, Ward 3, or mayoral, come see me. They did make a change yesterday to the municipal application form. So if someone has obtained one of the forms, because I handed out 4 or 5 of them before yesterday, or it's also on our website, please know that there's a new form. What they did was they added a paragraph at the very end about qualifications that let people know they also cannot be a convicted sex offender on the registry. And that will be something I'll have to check when someone returns a form. The window is open the 14th through 5 p.m. on the 29th.
Great, thank you. All right, moving on to consent agenda. On it, we have the April 14th, 2026 City Council meeting minutes. Approve April 28th, 2026 City Council special meeting minutes. Approve April 28th, 2026 City Council work session meeting minutes, and approve bills and claims. Get a motion and a second for that.
Mayor, I have a question for you.
Yes.
In the verbiage here, it says there will be no separate discussion of these items unless the council requests. At what point do you do that request?
Right after we'll approve, and then if something needs to be pulled for discussion, then we can do that.
Okay, I'd like to do
Great.
that whenever.
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a move to approve by Councilmember Cox. Going to get a second. Moved by Councilmember Larson and Councilmember Cassidy. I'm assuming you've got something you want to pull, please.
Just the bills and claims, a couple of comments and questions.
Mayor,
Yes.
can I pull the work session minutes, please?
Yes, also pull. Okay. So in that case, I think, Adam, I need your guidance on Robert and his many rules to make sure we do this right. So,
You'll have a discussion on those first. And if there aren't any amendments or changes, then you can move forward with the vote.
okay, great. So Councilmember Cassidy, start with you on the bills and claims with what your questions are.
Okay, just a couple of specific questions and then kind of like a closing comment. And it, perhaps Lance, maybe you can help, but it appears that we paid for tree removal and demoing of a house that was on fire or was burned, I'm sorry. Are you, is
Yes.
that in your wheelhouse?
Yep, that's definitely me, and that's in the streets budget this month. We directed during the middle of a fire to have a tree that was on fire cut down because it was a safety issue, worried about two things: the people around putting out the fire and their safety. The second one is it was a long enough tree to reach the next house over, and it was on fire in the middle of it. And so we hired an arborist to come cut that down and then a contractor to come help us dispose of that. The second one was the structure wasn't stable. And so we made the decision with the fire department to have the contractor push things in during those high winds to be able to do that. Right now, where we are is we submitted those to insurance and we're waiting to hear if they're going to pay it. I'm not one to hold back payment to a contractor. And so we're sitting on the checks to get a final solution if they're going to actually pay. If they decide to pay, we will dispose of the checks and not have to pay the contractors directly.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
There's also a couple of points in here, and this is kind of on the backside of our really helpful discussion we had yesterday about coding and details. And I've had some trouble with bills and claims in the past. I read them in detail. You know, it'll say MasterCard lunch number 1 for $15.44, right? And I've had some conversations with some folks, and I believe that I have a fiduciary duty, or we all have a fiduciary duty, which includes informed and diligent oversight, you know. And if this responsibility is one of our core responsibilities, one of our 2 core responsibilities, I don't think it's perhaps appropriate to refer to as routine, and therefore then to be in consent agenda into the future. The last thing I would say that we had some really great discussion yesterday about coding, and I think that there perhaps might be some refinements or solutions in the future, but the coding, either it can be, you know, top-down directed by a standard operating procedure, or it can be bottom-up, you know, kind of choose your own adventure. But I don't feel like I can fulfill my responsibility when it says, and exclusively to me, this is all it says, is MasterCard lunch number 1, $15.44, or MasterCard renewal, $41. I just don't feel like it's enough information, you know. The alternative to a diligent and informed review of information, which I think people want from me, the people in this room and the people outside this room demand of me. The alternative to that is for me to, you know, not know what I'm doing and approve. You know, and I just don't think that that's appropriate. So if we could consider in the future, we don't have to solve this problem now, consider in the future moving these things out of the consent agenda, and then maybe you know, finding a better way of coding to where we have a higher level of understanding and confidence in what we're proving. I would be very grateful for that. If anybody wants me to be on the team to solve that, I will drop tools and go to wherever you're at to help. And if you alternately, if you want me to stay out of the room, I'll do that too. So whatever you want, I will help. All right. That's it for me. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Stubble for the minutes.
Second, Councilman Cassidy on those points. Thank you for bringing them up. Mine is much more minor, and it's just in the work session minutes, 1A, the first sentence is missing the word budget, and that felt a little crucial to me. The proposed budget. So I propose that we amend the first sentence. The city council held a work session to review the proposed and add budget.
Add budget.
The subheading is there, but when you're
Got it.
reading those minutes in the paper at, 0.8 font or whatever. So for public transparency, I wanted that to be explicit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we can make that addition to it. Okay, so with that, Adam, now we can,
So is that a motion to amend that?
You want it to be?
It would need to be,
great, we
yes.
need,
That was
okay.
motion.
Okay, can we get a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Stubble, seconded by Councilmember Cassidy to amend the work session minutes. Call for the question, Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
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 Great, that passes. And now we can do approve the consent agenda. Okay, any other questions? Okay, Councilmember Han.
Yes.
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 No.
Yes.
And motion passes. Okay, next up, non-action item. We'll turn it over to Christy to, this is 8A, read the proposed FY 2026-2027 budget, City of Lander budget into the minutes. This is a requirement for the state to have this done by this date. So Christy, we'll turn it over to you.
The proposed budget for fiscal year 2026 through June 30th, 2027. The general fund is $8,533,709. Enterprise fund, $33,731,628, sorry. $731,628. Optional tax, $10,429,603. Economic development, $1,075,000. Airport, $3,212,765. Capital projects is $287,000, and the senior center is $21,000.
Okay. Thank you. All right, moving up to item 9, new business action items. We'll start with authorized renewal of local government liability pool liability insurance coverage for FY 26-27 in the amount of $41,537 payable July 1st, 2026. And motion in a second.
Move to approve the renewal of the local government liability pool liability insurance coverage.
Okay, and a
Second.
second?
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Cox with a second by Councilmember Cassidy. Any questions on this? Okay, call for the question, Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
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 Great, motion passes. Next up, item B, approve S 26.01 Phase 2A Riverwood Estate subdivision. Motion in a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Larson, seconded by Councilmember Cox. Regine, can you give us the overview on that?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. I did have the map and the city letter in your packet, so I'm happy to answer questions if you have any. The basic premise of this is the original subdivision was 41 lots. That's pretty hard to bank and build and get all your water, sewer, DEQ permits. We did have questions on the lots near the river for compliance for water, sewer, and wetlands. So the subdivider has asked to do this in 5 phases instead of one big phase. That is allowed by our codes, and so the Planning Commission recommends approval of this Phase 2A.
Okay. Any questions for Regine?
Just a quick comment on, just addressing some of our housing, our local housing needs. What an incredible asset this is to our community to have somebody willing to do this. I feel like they're a bit of a guinea pig, which is nice, for us, to understand this language, the correct language, what the needs are, et cetera. So I do really appreciate this.
Mayor, if I may make one comment.
Yeah.
This smaller phasing will allow them to take the 2 houses that you see that are already built and apply for occupancy permits. So we're trying to get that housing stock on the market faster. So.
Any other questions?
Mayor, just a procedural one, if I could. So Regine, we had approved it all at once. Now we've got phase 1 built. We're looking to occupancy. That's awesome. We've got phase 2 here. Do we need to rescind the original approval at all, or it's just gonna be replaced by the phased phases now that we're doing?
We don't. I think somewhere on that plat it says replat.
Okay.
And so that's where the codes in Title IV allow you to break something into phases and change those phases as needed.
Awesome. Brilliant. Seems like a good solution. So thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, seeing no other questions, Councilmember Han, we'll start with you, please.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passes. Item C, approve Lander Municipal Airport Hangar Space Land Lease Agreement between the City of Lander and Joel and William Auto for space 201. Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Cox, seconded by Councilmember Cassidy. Any questions on this? Okay, Councilmember Larson, start with you.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
And motion passes. Next up, item D, approve new restaurant liquor license application for Wind River Pizza LLC, DBA Wind River Pizza Company, 654 Main Street, Lander, Wyoming, 82520. Block 13E, one half, lot 14 and lot 15, original town of Lander, C, General Commercial District, and authorize the clerk to approve but not issue the license until such time as Wind River Pizza Company becomes fully operational and has satisfied the state liquor division requirements. Motion in a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Dan Hahn, seconded by Councilmember Josh Hahn. Any additional comments, discussion on this?
Only thing is,
Councilmember Cassidy.
I'd like to recuse.
Okay, thank you. Do we have to have a reason stated for that?
You're supposed to provide a reason why you're recusing?
This Briggs family is my closest friends in town.
Okay.
So I've yeah.
Thank you for recusing. Much appreciated. Okay. Call for the question, Councilmember.
Oh, yep. I want to make a comment if I may.
Yes.
Thank you. Keep it brief. I know we're feeling a lot of pressure here on the business, but I want to say thank you that we're having an ongoing conversation about regulating and managing liquor licenses and the distribution of liquor in town. Mr. Woolwine, we've spoken in the past. I share your deep concern. I think everybody in this room does about underage drinking and abuse of alcohol by those who do that. But I don't see, I'll be a yes vote on this. I don't see a direct connection between another restaurant liquor license and underage drinking, because I believe that we have incredible enforcement with our police force. We have really responsible business owners who are making sure they're not selling to minors. And, at later tonight, we're going to make changes to the way we regulate those liquor licenses and to ensure that we are doing everything we can to prioritize community welfare, safety, and to avoid underage drinking. So with those three pieces in place, the enforcement, the responsible liquor license holders who are doing everything they can not to sell to minors because they don't want to, they agree that we don't want underage kids drinking in town. And the regulations that we're putting in place, the structures we're setting up, and then I'll have to add the fourth actually as I speak of education and prevention services that are out there as well. Yes, we should do more of all of that to ensure that we don't sell to minors, but I don't see that approving this restaurant liquor license of saying this will definitely lead to kids drinking because of what I just put out in front. So it's a worthy debate. I hope we keep having it because we have to solve that issue. Alcohol abuse and underage drinking, 100% I'm there. But I also want to see, business like this. To borrow Ms. Motherway's very thought-provoking comment there, thrive and have a thriving economy. And so I think we can achieve both. So thank you for everybody who's been a part of that debate and is trying to solve those problems with us. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any other? Okay, let's call for the question. Councilmember Hahn.
Yes.
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 Okay, and that passes. Next up, item E, approve resolution 1384 approving industry representative support for the annual Lander Brewfest event on June 12th and 13th, 2026, pursuant to Wyoming statute 12-5-402. Can I get a motion and a second for that, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. I'll go, Councilmember Larson with a motion and Councilmember Cox to second. Any comments, questions about this? If so, Rochelle's here to answer them.
This came up. Oh, sorry, Mayor, this came up last year, correct?
It did.
That's correct.
The brewers who attend are considered industry representatives under state statute, and under state statute, industry representatives cannot donate without this body's approval.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passes. Item F, appoint the City of Lander official voting delegate and alternate to WHAM Summer Convention Business Meeting, June 4, 2026. Get a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Cox, seconded by Councilmember Cassidy. I'm not sure who all is planning on attending the WHAM convention. Is anyone other than myself? planning on going, and I believe Ann Eben is going to come as staff. Okay.
It would be a lot of fun. It's going to be in Laramie. It'd be a lot of fun.
Yep. Yep. So. Great. So do we need, can we leave it at those names, Adam, myself and Ann? As I'm the voting member and Ann's the alternate?
I think you have to, I mean, you have to move to appoint them, which you've already made a motion on, right? So you just have to vote on that. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, well, I mean, I can't make the motion of the names. So do we need someone to actually?
Yeah, you have to
provide the
make a
names?
motion on the names.
Okay.
Yes.
So if someone could make the motion.
So
for
you
the
have to
name.
amend the motion, the original motion.
Okay, so we don't need to do anything more than that. And just note that Ann and I will be the voting.
You have to,
member and
your original motion was to appoint the delegates, but you didn't name who they were going to be. So you need to make a motion to amend with their
With the specific-
specific names
okay.
and then vote on the amendment.
Would someone
then
be
vote on
willing
the
to
original
make the amendment, please?
Yes, I would be willing to do that. I'd like to amend the motion to include Mayor Missy White as the delegate and staff member Ann Even as the alternate to WAM's Summer Convention business meeting on June 4th.
Thanks. And can we get a second, please?
Second.
Okay, vote on the amendment. Thank you for that. Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
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 That passes. And now item F as a whole. We'll start with you, Councilmember Han.
Yes.
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 Okay. Awesome. Now we'll move on to item G, which was added. So this is resolution 1385. A resolution of the governing body of the city of Lander amending resolution 1381 to clarify the question of the 3/4% sales and use tax to specifically establish a 4-year term. Could I get a motion in a second?
Mayor, I move to approve.
Okay, a second? Who was?
Second,
Councilmember,
yes.
okay, moved by Councilmember Stupel, seconded by Councilmember Larson. Comments or questions on this?
I
So
do
my
have-
understanding what was changed was there was a typo in the Wyoming statute. It should be 3915, 203 ABC. And the other is clarifying that it would be effective for a period of 4 years. Are the two changes. Councilmember Han. No.
Yes, I'd like to make a comment. I believe that we should have all the information before the council, before we vote on this 3/4 tax resolution. To vote on this with not all the information, that doesn't seem realistic to me. So I can't support this. I'd like to have all the information. And to tell you the truth, when you do something like this, it's like the cart before the horse. We should add all the information. We should have everything before because I have no idea what is going to go on. And to tell you the truth, before when they were talking about having a board, a non-elected board in control of the citizens' money, I don't think that's right at all. And to tell you the truth, I don't know what is going to happen. So anyway, that's my comment.
Great, thank you. Other comments or questions about this?
No.
Councilmember Cassidy.
We'll fight about that later. Mayor, I think that, could you tell us the origins? We've got 2 edits here to a resolution that we have previously approved. Where did those edits come from? Was that from the county?
That's correct. Came from the county clerk's office with concerns that it wasn't specific enough that, one, the typo, we want to be citing the correct state statute. And then concerns that the same proposition be submitted at the general election in 2030 didn't specify enough that it was only valid for 4 years. So they wanted that extra language in the ballot language that it was only effective for 4 years.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. I am in favor of making these changes. They seem obviously very valid and reasonable. I'm disappointed that the county didn't catch these much earlier. When we were originally talking about this resolution over a month ago, 2 months ago now, right? March. It feels to me like there's quite a bit of confusion actually coming out of the county, and it is just tragic because this is exactly the kind of issue where we should be causing not only less confusion, but zero confusion. And to that point, I second Councilman Hans that that MOU I know is in works. We're going to see it well in advance of ballots being issued, even to absentee voters. Voters will have the chance to be fully informed about how we've agreed the money will be distributed if collected. And the earlier, the better on that too. So I, encourage and applaud the group that's working on those drafts to get those to us as soon as possible and fault-free, I would ask for at this stage. So thank you, just airing some frustration.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciated. Anyone else? Councilmember Cassidy.
Was the original version supposed to be for 4 years and it just
Yes.
accidentally omitted?
Yeah, it still stated it would be renewed in 2030 if successfully passed, but the clerk's office wanted to add that specific language about the duration.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Councilmember Larson.
Yeah, I guess, is this something that, we're supposed to have the MOU by the 26th?
We are hoping to have the MOU for us to discuss on the 26th.
Can we table this until then?
I believe we could.
I would make that motion.
Okay, so we have a move to table by Councilmember Larson. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Any other conversation about tabling?
Mayor, I just on the fly here, I just want to make sure because what we're approving is a resolution of the actual ballot language. There is a deadline for that, but it appears that we're not changing that ballot language here. It's just the body of the resolution itself. So I'm checking myself while I say that. Adam, any opinions? You're not probably, I think we're okay because the ballot language is here at the bottom of the resolution and even the statute edit is in the whereases.
Or like the original?
That's actually not correct. So we are we're approving a resolution that would amend the ballot language. It's just a state statute reference. But it's misstated in the 1381 and it's corrected here in 1385. So is there a deadline? I'm in favor, honestly, of tabling the idea, but I just know there is that deadline for getting ballot language printed.
That I can't speak to. Are you ready?
Mayor.
Yep. Yep.
Just in response to Mrs. Stubble, I think I agree with you that it appears on its surface to be verbiage, but I think it's more indicative of process. So the hesitations that you're saying that are being brought up are probably more substantial, and they're being brought out because of the way in which this is being done, even though this might be just simple, clarity, but it's reflective of some concerns.
Okay. Any other comments on the motion to table? Okay, see none. Councilmember Larson.
Affirmative.
Voting in the affirmative to table.
Okay,
Oh,
yes.
We need a date to table it too, though.
I
So
believe his motion said till May 26th.
May 26th. So we'll have to craft the agenda so that we can discuss it prior to voting.
Okay. Yes.
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 No.
Yes.
So motion passes to table. And so we don't have to go back and do the whole thing.
No, it's been tabled till May 26th.
Great. Okay. Next up is our unfinished action item, approve third and final reading of ordinance 2026-1, fixing and determining the mill levy necessary to be levied to raise sufficient money by general tax to meet the current expenses of the city of Lander for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2026. Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second.
Need a sweater? Yeah. So I saw that, comments on various social media posts concerned about, is this an additional tax? This has been in place for literally decades. This is not anything new. It's currently being done. Of the 8 mills, 5 go to the general fund for Lander, 3 mills go to the fire department. Just want to remind folks about that as the case. So any other comments, questions about this? Okay. Councilmember Han, we'll start with you for a call for the question.
Yes.
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 And motion passes. Okay, next up is our unfinished business, the non-action item, which is council discussion concerning proposed ordinance 2025-13, repealing City of Lander Municipal Code Title II, sale, licensing, and use of alcoholic and malt beverages, section 211 through 251, and in its entirety, and replacing it with Title II, sale, licensing, and use of alcoholic and malt beverages, sections 211 through 261. I also want to note that this is probably a big topic, and I know we've been here for 2 hours. I also know we have audience members here. But would a short break be beneficial to us to be able to be focused for this discussion? I'm seeing a couple of thumbs up. Is that agreed? So can we agree by that clock being the arbiter of time that at exactly 8 o'clock, we will be back here to discuss this?
And Madam Mayor, you're going to have to make a motion to recess
Oh,
and then come back on the record.
okay. So we need someone to make a motion to recess.
Move to, or make a motion to recess. And and return. Oh, I don't have to say that. We can do that. Yep.
Okay,
Recess.
Second.
okay. I don't think there's going to be much discussion on this. Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
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 Great, motion passes. Audience, please likewise avail yourselves. There's a restroom right around the corner. Yeah, which is, I want to know. Do I want walk and talk? That's our kitchen. Oh. And the dining room. Yeah. Deck to that. Yeah. I don't. Lots of work to do.
Talks about time. I have a candy bowl. No. I don't even think about that. I have money. Kelly got up there, dear. You are doing excellent job. You have learned so much. You're doing excellent job. We need to say the pledge again. Order is, that's cool. Order is cool.
Okay, it looks like we might have some of our attendees still coming back and joining us, but let's come back from recess.
And Madam Mayor, you'll need to make a motion to come back from recess to go back on the record.
Yes.
Mayor, I move that we return from recess and resume the meeting.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilmember Stubble. Can we get a
Second.
second? From Councilmember Han. Thanks for that speedy reply. We'll call for the question.
Listen,
Starting with you, Councilmember Han.
Yes.
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 Wonderful. We are back in our meeting here. So, lots of things have been proposed for us to discuss tonight. A big one I know is how we manage a point or fine system. I want to reiterate what the many comments that have been said already tonight about how appreciative we all are for the conversations that have happened, that folks are trying to find ways to make this, I will say, talk about compliance and improvement. I am, to Ms. Motherway's comment, I'm not talking about survivability. I think that's not the way to frame it. I want us to be careful about, we don't want to inadvertently create consequences that are not survivable. So I hope those questions were asked in that context, but what we're looking for is the broad spectrum of addressing liquor license concerns, our needs of being compliant with our responsibilities to the state liquor division, to public safety, et cetera. So keeping the wide angle lens for that. One of the questions that has come up with some of the proposed amendments in terms of shifting from a point system to, or a fine system, or a point and fine system, is that managing fines can be a cumbersome and ineffective process. I've had some conversations with Adam about that this morning, and Rochelle as well. And so I think that's important information for us to understand, because we have proposals in front of us that are currently on the docket is a combination. One that has been strictly fine-based has been proposed. And I've also had one added, I'm sorry that it was only handed out this afternoon, that is strictly points-based. So Adam, I want to turn it over to you to explain what concerns are about how we manage fines and recourses if fines are not adhered to.
So I think it's clear, or it's important to understand that there's a difference between a criminal fine and a civil fine. A criminal fine would be if there's a violation of the law that's enforceable through our court system. The judge will hear that and the judge will issue the fine. What is listed in here would be a civil fine, which just says that you violated our statute or our ordinance, and we are imposing a fine on, in this particular instance, a liquor holder or liquor license holder. Now, the question then becomes, what does that mean? That just means that we tell them that they owe us money for a violation. If they refuse to pay, the only recourse that we have as a city is to sue them for some sort of debt collection. So then we would have to pursue them in a civil case to be able to get them to pay that amount of money. We're also limited in terms of our ability to be able to potentially garnish their funds or go after them to be able to enforce sale of their property to pay some of those fines. So there are some significant limitations in civil fines. The bigger issue, I think, is going to be if they refuse to pay, then what is the recourse? I assume it would be that, well, then that justifies a suspension or a revocation of their license. Again, that would also trigger litigation as well. And so fines can be cumbersome because there isn't a clean process unless somebody's really nice and says, yes, I'll pay you the fine. But I don't know if they're already having some troubles or some issues. Most of the time, they're not willing to just pay a fine. And so that does create some level of cumbersomeness in a fining system when it's just a civil fine, because these are not criminalized. Now, that being said, I understand that serving alcohol to a minor, that does have a fine, but that goes through the court system. Civil fines do not. That would go through a civil court system. We would have to file a lawsuit to collect those fines.
Question on that? Yep.
Yeah, as expected, this is going to bring up questions. So Councilmember Hahn and then Councilmember Cox.
So if the police department writes you a ticket, it's a fine.
That's a criminal case. That would
Okay.
go through our court system.
Okay, but if somebody doesn't pay that, then you throw them in jail, right?
It
Or
would-
do you?
They could, that still goes through the
Ultimately,
court
yes,
system.
but not that quickly. They have to go to court. The court has to order, fail to pay, issue a
Okay.
warrant, et cetera.
Well, okay, I'm just trying to figure out, because no matter what we do up here, there's going to be a fine. Whether there's a point system or whether there's no point system, we're going to have a fine, right?
Not
No.
necessarily.
No. What
If
I
you-
was proposing was points only.
If you go with
Because
just strictly
fines
a
being
point
raised.
system where they accumulate so many points, and if they accumulate so many points, then it could result in a revocation or suspension of their license. That's an option. If you want to have a point system up to a certain point that has a fine, you can do that too. But you're still going to run into the same issue with civil fines. And we have issues with civil fines now because we do have ordinances that say, hey, if you violate this, we're going to ask you to pay $50. But if they don't ever pay, then are we really going to pay a lawyer to sue them for $50?
Okay,
Councilmember Cox.
thank you.
Thank you. I just have a couple of points of emphasis, and that is, I think data suggests that we haven't had that many infractions of Title II. So we're talking about a very small number of potential fines. We have, as evidenced by participation in the drafting of not only this title, but the conversation, the robust conversation, the information, both from city staff as well as business owners. We have a law-abiding group of people
Yeah.
for the most part.
Agree.
And I think we can, and while I agree that there can be some administrative issues with fines, I think that's the same with a point system as well, in my own opinion. And not only that, but the fine could be tied to their license, which is what's valuable to them. That's their livelihood. And so, yes, there could be some problems with collecting fines for bad actors. I don't think that's what we're experiencing from the majority. And when I talk about making decisions, I'm making decisions based on the majority, not the minority, and making rules on people that aren't gonna, we don't do it in the criminal justice system where we make rules based on what ifs. And so I, as a council member and hearing all of this and reading all of this, I am not in favor of point system. I prefer a fine system. And I think that in the event that we see in 1 year or 2 years, that that's an unreasonable thing for staff and it's overarching in their job duties and it's not attainable, then we can revisit it. That's the beauty of it. I don't see that being the problem. I don't foresee that being a problem. And if it is, we'll keep the data. We'll come back and we'll say, that did not work. We have to revisit this. We have spent a lot of time on this with a lot of good input. I personally feel like fine-based is better. And I appreciate, I'm not dismissing what you're saying because I understand that it can be challenging, but I don't see that as being an issue with this. There's very few infractions of these rules. And I think it sends a message about what we value in our community and how we accept the input from our constituents, as well as moving to a point where they can thrive and be valuable to our community. So.
Great, thank you. I appreciate hearing that because I actually have almost the inverse of it I think fines by any of our license holders here in the room, they would pay right away. It's the problem of the irresponsible license holders that is going to be the push us into what's problematic about fines, having to go through the additional cost of some kind of legal, et cetera, for that.
Yeah.
One of my other concerns about fines is I can't put this into firm numbers, but my hunch is that fines are not felt equally by all of our license holders. I mean, and this is one of my concerns about us being fair and equitable in creating a system. So I think for some of our smaller license holders, $1,000 fine is pretty significant for them.
Absolutely.
Whereas points are an egalitarian measure and impact on our business owners, because I would hate for a business owner to end up with a higher fine that does impact their business and functionality of it. And that's why
Yeah.
Between the two, I am more in favor of a point system because it impacts all of our license holders, whether big, small, everything in between in a more equitable manner. The other thing that we've not had a chance to get to yet, but as our license holders have noted, this, although it may not be intended this way, again, our intent is compliance and education and avoiding ending up in a bad place, that it still has a feel of all stick. And in my looking to some of the other communities in the state that have similar systems, they actually do have some carrots, which are ways of basically removing points. It's a weird thing since we're adding points. This would be removal of points by things like confiscating fake IDs. By self-reporting incidents are ways that they could basically bank points for that. And I don't know how to do that in a fine system.
Well, I'll reiterate that it's not a problem with fines. It's a problem with people who don't pay their fines. And so the structure isn't the fault, the flaw. It's who adheres to that structure,
right,
and doesn't.
Yeah.
And it is in my opinion equitable. If you can't afford $1,000 fine to your business, don't violate the rule. And that's how you don't pay. In that personal responsibility and accountability, we cannot continue to try to govern that. That's on you. And then if they don't pay, we have a way to get that back. And we have not had that many infractions that is going to produce enough work that causes me more concern on fines than it would on points. Laramie is not a good example of our community because Laramie is a college town. And there's a bunch of underage drinking that goes on and establishments make money and they don't care. And that makes sense. A demerit system and a point system makes sense in Laramie because it's a college town. And so they would rather pay, pay $1,000 and, it's just a different community. Our community is different. And I respect that for other communities, but I don't think it's valuable here.
Yeah, Mayor, I just one more comment. I think in many ways we're in violent agreement. I'll say that. So what I'm concerned about, implementing a fine system is for the bad actors, that is going to be more costly for the city because those are the ones that will have problems paying it or not want to pay it. And likewise, I think one of the comments you just made, Councilmember Cox, about we don't want to be responsible and try to be parents for these organizations, agreed. And we also heard from a number of our license holders in previous conversations, their concerns about I'm doing my darndest to make sure my employees do things properly, but sometimes they don't. I have a rogue employee, those kinds of things, which I don't want a fine system to be racking up against them with having a rogue employee thing. So that's my piece. I think Councilmember Stubble.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to hit a little bit of time out on how we're having the conversation right now, because we have, at my count, already put maybe 3 to 4 substantive concepts that are related but different, and we're going to start to debate sections of those, and I'll comment on fines. Somebody else will comment on incentives. So, Mayor, could we structure our conversation right now by taking bites at amendments and seeing if they survive or fail, and then improving them down the line? So I would suggest that we actually, instead of having this wide-ranging debate right now, we start moving amendments on saying, let's have a fine system or a point system and see what survives or fails by vote, and then improve from there.
So we're not voting, but getting head nod.
Head nod, excuse me.
Yeah.
That's a work session,
Yeah.
of course.
Thank you for
But-
that clarification. Mostly I wanted folks to understand that our attorney and clerk have stated that fines are problematic for us to enforce. So if we choose to go down that road, we should be mindful of what that means.
Great, thank you.
So,
I'm glad to have our eyes
yeah.
wide open to that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, and with that, I'd like let's open it for the amendment that you and Councilmember Cassidy have put
Thank you.
together. I know you put a lot of time and energy into that with some of our license holders here in the room as well.
Thank you. And I actually, Mayor, need to say, we've been calling it Chad and Julia's amendments, or, they're pulled heavily and are very inspired by Councilman Dan Hahn's format. So thank you. Dan, we didn't bring you in on the actual typing it up, but we were looking at yours the entire time of equalizing, not weighting violations by severity, but saying it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so I'm getting a little, uncomfortable saying it's ours, because really we either inspired by or pulled heavily from yours. So thank you. So Mayor, I think there's some details in ours to still iron out, but what we have in front of you is a couple big changes here. And so it's sections 2.31 and 2.32 that would be largely overhauled in accordance with great ideas pulled from fellow councilmen, council people, and that were derived from the feedback we've had from license holders over many months. So thank you for everybody who's been involved in this. We have either reduced the types of violations or tried to get very specific about violations that remain. We have a quantified system that is based only on the number of violations, not the number of points or the amount of fines. So that's where I'd shift us from fines versus points to, we are just trying to say, if you do X, Y, and Z, these other things will happen. And in this version, Councilman Hahn's great idea is it's just 1 violation, 2 violations, 3 violations that we're tracking. Now, we do still have fines assessed to that as another level of accountability perhaps, but the fines are not the quantifiable system of saying, if you get to $5,000, then it's enforcement. That's not at all what this says. It's if you get to the 5th violation, right, or 6th violation. So I hope, and I find that appealing for it to be much simpler for license holders to abide by and to understand where are we in this, right? Versus a point system. I have 3 points, I have 5 points, what's added up now? Or for staff, I think there's a cumbersome nature to that as well. So number of violations leads to actions prompted. There are fines attached to that. And then we've adopted in section 2.3.2 entirely, other than some wordsmithing, Attorney Phillips' advice around making that hearings, enforcement, suspension, revocation, appeal section very, very detailed, with the goal that it is a playbook that folks know what could be coming, how to avoid it. We all know what steps are taken. And crucially, from council debate in January, I think, I'm forgetting now, that it is as removed from us as possible. There's the formal votes we have to take to initiate litigation if we get to that far point. But an independent hearing officer, a third-party person, is reviewing the process documented by staff and the evidence that we've gathered, and not the council adjudicating our own process. So that's my summary of the big changes here. Fewer violations, more specific violations, very tied to the service of alcohol, a number of violations that prompts actions, not a point system, fines are attached to that right now, and then that hearings and enforcement section. So I guess I'm not moving it, but I'd be curious if there's head nods from council that maybe there's some details to tweak within this, dates and timeframes, but overall, how does that rewrite of 2.3.1 and 2.3.2 look?
Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Larson.
I'm all for the rewrites that you've done. I just think that we ought to go back to the point system rather than the fine. I don't see a bit of difference between whether you're fining somebody or whether you're giving them points. There's a quantifiable not reward, but there's something there that says, okay, this happened, okay, and it's quantifiable. And it doesn't matter whether it's a $5,000 fine, whether it's a $200 fine or a $10 fine. If we keep talking about the little guy and trying to save him and not make things any harder than is absolutely necessary. But you get somebody that's possibly new in the business and they make some sizable missteps. $1,000 fine could be very detrimental to whether that person continues on in business or whether he doesn't. And a point system, it has the same effect. You get your 10 points, 20 points, whatever it is that gets you to the hearing, then you still go to the hearing. But it's not detrimental, in the meantime, to whether they're able to continue in business or whether they're not. I just don't see any sense for the fines at all.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Was that about a hand going up? Okay. One thing I had a question about, to me, getting to a fifth violation before the hearing begins seems overly generous. Again, noting we generally have incredibly respectful and appropriate license holders who work really hard to do the right thing. And if we're trying to intervene in the bad actors, I think that needs to come at a much sooner point for those who are being. So that was one of my thoughts. Councilmember Hahn.
Well, I was going to say, I appreciate that, John. But I think quite a few of us talked to a lot of the different businesses, and actually what we have here with the non-point system, just a fine, was what the businesses here wanted. And so I don't know what else to say. I think we should make a motion and vote and see where everybody's at.
So yeah, we're not a voting session for this. It's discussion.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's
Yeah.
right.
And
That's right. But
yeah, Councilman Hunt, I totally agree that this has been a lovely organic potential proposed solution from our business owners. And I would note what business owners aren't probably aware of is exactly what our legal counsel explained to us, that trying to enforce non-payment of fines is problematic. The folks you've spoken with, I would imagine the folks who say, hey, if my staff goofed, we were issued a fine, we paid the fine, we got it. That's lovely, but we need to take the broader view of how do we create a system that's not just for our excellent liquor license holders, but those who may stumble.
may I add to that?
Yes, please.
I think that, to tell you the truth, I don't see that. And I think a lot of people up here don't see that happening either. But if it did happen and somebody was just starting out, like John said, and they couldn't afford that kind of hit, I'm assuming that we could do like a payment, plan or something. I don't, honestly, I do not think that's going to happen, to tell you the truth. And But I think that we could accommodate if somebody was in trouble, we could figure something out. I just don't see it happening. And except that they don't want the points, John.
Can I?
Yeah, Councilmember Cassidy.
So a couple of things. Firstly, I have to back up to give some context to help with some of the comments that were made. So early in the process, there was a discussion with a business owner, and the verbiage, the terminology survivable came into the conversation. So I need to give some context to everybody. Survivability of those businesses is not the aim of the community. And that's not the way that wording was being used. Okay. I want to make that very clear. There was a one-to-one comment, a discussion that was going on. And to give you context of what we were talking about, we were saying what kind of fine structure would be survivable financially for a small business. That's how the verbiage came, that's how it got into the conversation. And it bounced from contact point to contact point with people. And I think, and I apologize, that it went from very deep context with one business owner to another one without that context being drug across in the conversation, and that might have caused some confusion. So there is no expectation or aim that people only survive, right? We want everybody to thrive. So with your discussions now about whether people can afford dollar amounts, there have been conversations going to business owners saying, hey, do you think that, in your professional opinion, is this amount of money a deterrent? Would these multiple amounts of money over multiple offenses be deterrent? And would they also be for survival for a business? Because it's very important to us that we all make mistakes every day, but we want to be able to survive and learn from those mistakes and not have those be fatal mistakes with fatal consequences. The dollar amounts that are in this draft reflect those conversations. And there were a lot of up and downs from business owners saying, that's a deterrent, but that's a deterrent that isn't fatal. Okay, so that's where the survivability comment came in. That's where the dollar amounts came in. I'm not wedded to any dollar amount. We can do whatever. So that's the first point. The second point on the fines, there was a discussion early on before here with the mayor leading the charge on it about regressive and progressive, structures for fining. If I can afford half of what Dan affords, should I pay half the fine that Dan pays? If we want to go that path in our thinking and how we structure things, we are going to have a significant change to our government. Do we want to change every fining and every structure that we do, every charge that we do, to where those are now progressive in nature? If we're going to make that argument, we need to stick to that argument across everything that we do. And if that's the way we want to do it, then we can debate it, and that might be the outcome, right? But I don't believe that. I don't think that I don't pay less for a dog license than anybody else, so, or more. So I don't think that the progressive versus regressive argument is one that we want to kind of move into. I think we can, probably say fixed costs are fixed costs, and they serve as deterrents. They're appropriate. They're effective deterrents. They don't kill off businesses. They don't have fatal consequences. And that if that's our targeted aim, are we hitting the mark? And if we are, great. If we're not, then we can debate on that, right? So, do we feel, I guess to close out, do we feel that, as it's been described by Julia, that step-through process with those amounts of money will change my behavior when I make a mistake, but will not be fatal? That's my question.
Councilmember Cox.
Well, I just want to, yes. But also on third violation, they will come before the governing body with a corrective action plan instead of a fifth. I just wanted to make sure that we have that language right, but, and it is.
Can you be up to the microphone?
Yeah, of course.
Can hear you.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes, I agree with Councilman Cassidy, and also, the first violation still being a warning rather than a fine or point, which I like. And then the third violation would institute them coming before the governing body with a corrective action plan. So that's not to the fifth or sixth violation, which is nice.
So you're saying advance it?
It's
Oops.
already written in here, third violation, it's
Okay.
already within the body of the
Okay.
language.
Comments?
Councilman Josh Hahn, I want to make sure we're not speaking over you.
Yeah, sorry, I've been looking that way, so not seeing you.
I've been against it the whole time. I feel the state does a fine job. I have a lot of faith and trust in the business owners in this town, and I feel, just putting them through all this is unfair to them. Everybody makes mistakes, as it was stated earlier. That's part of life. That's how you learn. I feel doing a point system and holding that against them and over their heads is showing that we don't trust them. And I feel that if we show them trust, we're in a tight community, it's different than any others, that will reciprocate, and maybe they'll trust us a little more, they'll have faith in us versus, what we're doing right now. That's where I stand with it. I didn't like it from the get-go.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate those thoughts. Councilmember
Thank you.
Steele.
Thank you, Mayor. I mean, I think I'll comment as we maintain the debate here of, adopting this kind of reform on points versus fines that this has been, I'm so proud of the policy development process we've done here and proud of council staff and everybody who's engaged. So, hopefully I'm getting redundant about this, but I don't want to, miss that opportunity to say that of my time on council, this has been the most we have done demonstrable outreach out, incorporated feedback in, gone back out, had an iterative process. There's an element of that, I'm sure, where you're sick of it, like seriously, 6 more months, but I get it, but it's going to be better at the end of it. And that leads me to the points thing. I'm not a business owner, and I have heard throughout this entire process, no demerits, no points. I defer to those experts. If that is cumbersome for you, and you've been telling us that consistently, I have heard that now, and it took me a little long to get there. I'll acknowledge it was March before I was like, okay, let's start thinking differently about this. Thanks to those who helped inform that thinking on me. If you tell me that's too much for you to track, if that's too complicated, if that feels punitive, even if it's not intention, it feels that way, then I take that seriously. And I'm weighing that now with expertise from our staff who say, okay, but fines are cumbersome. And if something is going to be cumbersome in this moment, I don't know if I'll always choose this, but I want us to manage what's cumbersome on our end instead of saying to business owners, we're going to make it harder for you then, because we are adding levels here that are new. We are adding something that they're going to adapt policies to. And if we can lessen that as much as possible and find a manageable situation, that's my goal. I think we're here. I thank you for your line of sight on fines. That sounds challenging. Let's try it out and see. And honestly, I think we manage for it. We manage for it with other fines right now. So I still stand on number of violations quantifies the actions happened, and there's some fines assessed to act both as a deterrent, but within, as Councilman Cassidy said so well, not only a deterrent, but something that is okay if it happens. It's not going to shut down a business.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Cassidy.
Two very small things. One, the time period, I think, is like January to December in the draft that we're talking about, and there's been some reach back to simplify that and just do renewal to renewal date, right?
Yep.
And then this one's for Chief, I think. In your professional observation and opinion, carding of buyers, IDing of buyers, and making that universal in some places. Do you have any insight or opinion on that? Do you think it's worthwhile, effective?
Just to clarify your question, are you asking me if I think it's appropriate to mandate that these people card people?
Yes, as a second part. The first part of the question, I'm sorry, would be, in your opinion, do you think that would be effective in deterring those actions? And then would you recommend it for those?
I guess my knee-jerk answer to you is no, I don't think it's effective because the times that we have had failures in our compliance checks, they have been carded. It was a human error, whether it be math or whatever it was. It wasn't the simple fact that they weren't carded. The other side of it for me is I don't know that mandating them to card people in our ordinance is the proper path. We pass out every year through our compliance checks, posters, stickers, other things that quick give date of birth as reference guides for them. It's easily comparable. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, thank you. It's on, it's in the conversation. I think that's why I bring it up is could it be done? Would it be effective? You know, I think it's where we're kind of thinking through right now.
Personally, I guess my opinion is that we're then trying to mandate them on how they operate professionally to the best of their interest.
Sure.
I think that's their job to do that.
Yep.
Not ours to regulate how they manage.
And that's part of the feedback, right? That I think that's one side of the debate, right? And the other
Sure.
side of the debate might be something more like, you know, what are the optics of the community? How seriously does the community take this across all the licenses that are granted by the city? You know, does the city, in partnership with all of those business owners, say that this might be, and this perhaps it might be onerous, but it's very small, but this is how it reflects out in the community about how seriously we take this, right? So that's maybe the other side of the debate, you know? I don't think I've made a decision on it. I'm listening to both sides, right? But, you know, we're getting, it's in the conversation.
Well, and I think it comes out in whether it's tips or whatever professional alcohol server training you choose to put your staff through, they hammer that home regularly about carding, about IDing people. I think I've been vocal that if that's the route where people want help with that, I think there's grants that we as the police department can apply for to get ID readers that we would loan and or lend to people. Some of the debate is when you scan the ID, what kind of information are you getting? Right. And I think that's the bigger hangup, especially I guess what I've heard in Lander is you're scanning my ID, so now you're getting all of my information, and that's not the case. I mean, that's some education probably. I think if we continue to focus on we're helping with compliance on best practices and let them choose what their best practices are, that's my opinion.
Yeah. Chief, before you put the microphone away, so what are the state guidelines or statutes about identification for those underage for controlled substances? Is there a state statute about I mean, selling controlled substances has to be only to those over age 21 or 21 and over.
Yeah, that's in the statute that they have to be over the age of 21. It's
So-
recommended that you card under anybody that appears to be under the age of 40 is what their statement is. But the only direct guideline is you can't sell to anybody under the age of 21.
Okay, so state statute allows the business owner to come up with their own protocol about how they want to manage that.
Correct. And their assistance with it is through our compliance checks, the grants that come as all the packets of stickers and date of births and all the things as quick reference guides.
Okay. Anything else? It's
Councilman Larson, you'll probably be carded for another 10 years.
right. Yep. It's for youthful look. Yep. Oh. Okay. Other parts of this that merit conversation.
Well, Mayor, I think, yeah, a couple details then of Councilman Cassidy raised a change here from calendar year to license renewal year. That was
Yep.
feedback from a license holder, so thank you. So in that case, it would be February 20th. No, would it be the day after that, I guess? Helps. Great.
Yep.
So we'd start on February 21, counting a violation through the next calendar year. Or I'm sorry, through the next license renewal year. Yes. Yeah, the term of the license, exactly. So let's just say that. So that would be a change here on dates is, this is 2.3.1, again, above the number of violations table. Documentation of fines for each violation in a license renewal term. Clerk Fontaine, is that correct? And then February 21st through February 20th of the next year.
20th.
Right. Oh, it's on the 20th. I'm thinking it's next.
So the 20th to the 19th.
20th to 19th. Thumbs up on that.
Correct.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if we want to
Yeah.
make that very explicit, we could, but
Yeah.
yeah. That's the goal, is to make that as clear as possible. Yeah, they're not accrued year over year. Then Mayor, another detail is, I just want to highlight that again, feedback we received, you see it in here, but I want to call it out, is that unauthorized gambling has been removed from the violations and then the definitions. And lastly, I know there was some back and forth amongst council through the last few months about the amount of time for tips training. We landed on 60 days. That's a change from when the council originally went from 30 to 90 at some point in this process earlier. We're suggesting come back to 60 as a middle ground there. And added, renew it every 2 years of employment. So it's refreshed, because I think we all benefit from refreshing any kind of education or training we get.
Mayor, I think 60 days is way too long. You know, we don't need them to qualify for retirement before they start taking their tips training. 3 weeks is plenty and I don't, bellyache and bark at me because I've done this. You know, I've had to get people trained in a certain length of time, and I've paid the overtime for it, and I've paid the trainer and everything else, and you know, it's not anything new to me, but it needs to be done before 60 days.
Thank you. And I think when we come to voting on it, that's certainly an amendment that you are more than welcome to make. I'm guessing based on the conversation that would not have a lot of support for it, but again, I think it's totally appropriate to bring that amendment.
I've been there before, so that's all right.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yeah, Councilmember Cassidy.
You had mentioned earlier, Chief, that you had done some training already.
We've put on 5 trainings and served and taught 48 people.
Sustainability of that, workload, challenges for the department.
For my staff, it's 100% sustainable.
Are those typically, I'm sorry, I've just got a few questions here. Are those,
Fine.
are you finding those are renewals? Are those new hires? Do y'all have that kind of information?
I don't have the exact information. It's my understanding most of them are new hires and or new to the, so we're working hand in hand a lot with Tana Groomsmith and helping her because she used to do this completely by herself in all of Fremont County. So out of the 5 trainings and 48 people, that's a mix between Lander and Riverton because Riverton just changed their ordinance as well. So we're attending those trainings and helping as well. I don't have direct facts to how many are Lander, how many are new, how many are renewals. I just now quickly, I asked today, how many times have we trained and how many people have we trained? And that was the answer I got.
Do you have any concerns about sustainability or workload?
0.
No? That's easy for you?
Yeah, I have 3. I have 3 staff and they're tag teaming a lot of it right now because it's new to them. So they're learning from each other. But as we move forward, it's not going to take 2 or 3 every time. It'll be 1, but
yeah. So the reason I ask these questions and John is that, and for Chief as well, that I would say the majority of the business owners we've spoken to have been very forthcoming and said, hey, I have my own training. You know, it is very thorough. It's in a training jacket or an employee's jacket. I keep my finger on that. It's very important to me that it's renewed, you know. So these, you know, these ones that you're doing, that's why I'm asking are, you know, it might be other employers that we're not speaking to, but the vast majority of them are doing that on their own, and it's the equivalent training and it's the appropriate training, and for most of them, it's on new hire, you know, so they hire them and it's in their best interest to get those folks trained as soon as possible and get them through the training pipeline and out to do the work that they need done there with confidence that those folks can do that well. And then they, you know, renew it as required, right? So the timing that we are concerned about and that we're trying to put our finger on the right amount of time, I think they have beat us to the finish line on that. And they said, hey, it's in my best interest to get this done as quick as possible. And those who are unable to do that, perhaps don't have their own policies and places within the ones that you might see most often. So it's probably a very small percentage of the total, right? Because most of those business owners are doing it in a quicker timeline than we are talking about because it's in their best interests and they're leading that, right? So I think maybe that'll help, you know, with some of the considerations on time.
Mayor, I'm mea culpa on this one. Ms. Motherway, I hear you. I've been saying tips training. I kicked us off by saying tips training. It was very clear in our feedback. It is just an approved alcohol server training course, might not be tips branded.
Yeah.
I kicked us off by being glib about saying tips, but I'm going to get better at that.
Yeah.
It's just an approved training.
Yeah. AST, alcohol server training.
No more
Right.
acronyms.
Right. And again, we know that many of our license holders have substantial alcohol server training for it. Yeah. So I wanted to bring up a few things. I realize I'm facing a dramatic uphill battle if I try to focus on points, but there are some things I want to bring your attention to on the document I provided to y'all to outline in red. One, I do think it's beneficial. I included in red as permitted by Wyoming statute 12-7-201. That was one of our many pretty pointed conversations and questions from our license holders about, does the licensing authority or the city as a licensing authority have the ability to provide possible suspension or revocation? And given the amount of confusion or questioning about that, I would think that's an important thing to clarify for folks, that we are acting within our authority. Also in section B, one thing that's not clarified at this point is what constitutes a violation? Is it spoken about, confirmed, convicted? And I think, again, that is important information to clarify. So I would suggest when we talk about violations, that if it's a criminal, it's based on conviction. If it's a civil violation, that it's a confirmation, and that investigation would be done by Lander PD for that. They would be the ones doing that. So again, our goal is to provide clarity for that and be able to, for our sake and for our license holders' sakes for that. If you turn to page 2, that was, I had the idea of as ways to create carrots, so not sticks. Again, I think that's important for us, that we want to show we trust our license holders. The vast majority of them, there are the occasional bad actors that come around, but ways to create carrots. So the idea of confiscation of fake IDs, that's one of the things the license readers do. They just confirm age and that it's a valid ID. And I think I emailed that info to folks about it. And likewise, again, we're trying to recognize we have many very responsible license holder. I liked the idea of any kind of self-reporting of a potential violation would lend in decreasing points and not then moving forward in the violation process for that. I likewise had that clarifying that during the 12-month license term. So, and that's probably better language than the February 20 to 19, because at some point the state could change that. So that keeps that, they don't do all the licenses all around the state at the same time. That just happens to be ours. And then lastly, this is a question that was brought up by a constituent about, so what about a private event when someone is applying for a malt beverage permit or a catering permit? Are there any requirements for them to have any kind of alcohol server training available? And so likewise, this is language I crafted with our clerk today about you just have an individual who's gone through an alcohol server training and be present during the time alcohol is available for consumption. So that's getting a bit into the weeds, but given the number of permits that we issue, and we know there are some parties that end up being rather, let's say, feisty is the adjective that comes to mind. Is that something council would want for that? Or is that not of interest for folks?
Is there some suggestion that that doesn't happen? If you have a malt beverage or catering permit, generally speaking, you would have had to gone through that training, right?
That's
As
what
part
being
of our-
proposed, is that at least one person who's part of the event would have that training.
Mm-hmm.
I thought
Okay.
it was already there. I could be mistaken for sure, but I thought it was already there.
It is not there.
Good catch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. And so that would be in that, whatever section that is. So I'm seeing at least a few head nods. Yes, that's of interest, possibly. Councilmember Stubble.
Yeah, of interest. I want to get feedback on that one, so I won't comment because I'm thinking through, weddings at the museum. So I just want to hear from our caterers, especially about the variety of things that they do cover, and if there's staff present, or if they're just providing alcohol.
Right, and exactly that reason. Sometimes the catering permit is simply dropping it off and folks do their own, in which case someone hosting the event, like the actual person applying for it. So not the person providing the alcohol, but the person running the event would take have someone who is trained. Because that
Yeah.
happens where the folks with the catering permits aren't necessarily available to have staff on premise the entire
Right.
time.
Right, so then I'm not sure how we'd enforce that, because how would we, have a violation against them if they're choosing not to staff that event, that private event didn't want staff? So there's a lot of questions for me on that one. It comes into those really private events
Yeah.
and who we'd hold accountable.
Yeah. It would be the person requesting the permit. So maybe, Rochelle, can you speak a little more? Because you handle a lot of these folks coming for a private event, a wedding, quinceanera, graduation party, whatever it is.
So in order to get a catering permit or a malt beverage permit, they're only required if there's going to be a sale. Typically, in your weddings, no one's selling alcohol. It's something you're
Open bar.
giving to your guests.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you're not required to have a catering permit or a malt beverage permit in those situations. Now, the Wyoming statute or what the liquor division considers a sale is pretty broad, honestly, but catering permits can only be applied for by retail license holders. So typically they do have the staff that's there. Once in a while, hear about a team up with like the mobile horse trailer. So sometimes a retailer will team up with someone like that. And so I really couldn't tell you what that looks like if they're hiring that, who's serving the alcohol then. I really don't know. Now, a malt beverage permit is slightly different because under state statute, any responsible individual or organization can come in and ask the city for one. So Rotary for the picnic over the 4th of July, 307 Gravel, those are typical organizations that will come in and ask for malt beverage permits for a fundraiser or an event where they're selling beer or whatever they're doing. And that might be that's when you're going to see more civilian volunteers serving beer, where you might consider that being appropriate.
Not having this apply to a catering permit, because what you're saying is by and large, a caterer, whoever is providing the caterer from the retail license holder is present.
Only a retail license holder can apply for a
Catering.
catering permit
Okay.
and be issued one.
Great. So change that to an event through a malt beverage permit. Only.
Mayor White,
Did that answer questions? I don't know. Councilmember Hahn, did you have a follow-up here?
You good?
Yep. Okay,
Did-
Councilmember Cassidy.
Okay, sorry. Just
Down on page 2, there's that one line about 24 months. Did you strike that? Is that why we didn't? It's in red there. The double points for 24
Yeah.
months.
Yeah, with the idea, so since the slate clears, but one of our concerns was, so someone gets almost to the edge, renews their permit, and then next year they're doing the same bloody thing. Doesn't seem like we're actually creating the compliance and better management that we're looking for. So that's in this instance, the stick about, hey, if you're making the same mistakes over and over and over again, without showing the effort that you're actually intervening to preclude these from happening, and there should be higher consequences for it. And so that was already part of it. And so I changed it, removing the fines and strictly addressing the points, because that was my approach of having just points. So that may be something folks are interested in. If only doing a fine, again, for the same thing, that's not the effect we're going for. We want folks to make improvements in their operations and how they function and to be incentivized to do that. And doubling of fines could be a disincentive or incentivized for folks to make sure that their practices just continue to get tighter and tighter.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I would think it would be perhaps show, I think Melinda made a good point about, trust. I think that 12 months would be fine, would be okay, keep it to that. And then if we need to readdress, we readdress. If we need to tighten it up and refine it later, we do that. Kind of following her lead on that.
Yeah,
So-
so I think we're slight cross purpose. The point accumulation would be cleaned every year.
Mhm.
What's referenced there as if a license holder is yet again showing in subsequent years, you're not actually making the changes that you said you're gonna make. That's not what we're going for. So we're gonna give you a little more financial incentive or point incentive, whatever system we use, to like, no, really, we mean business. We want you to do the right thing. And so that's a way of.
Sure, and I think that if we did have a very minor percentage of people who are taking advantage of February, then we address that in a later a review. If we see a handful of those where, you know, people are going to extremes at the very end of their, you know, their license period, then maybe we can address that in a second iteration.
Thank you. Other comments? Is this something we think we could vote on the May 26th meeting? Okay. Okay, great. Okay, somewhere in here I have my agenda, but I believe this was the last item on the agenda. Yep, so in that case.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Cox. Need a Second. Seconded by Councilmember Josh Hahn. Call for the question, Councilmember Hahn.
Yes.
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 Meeting is adjourned.
Hopefully it's better though. For the some cancer is dead worse. Thank you. I totally respect if you still are opposed, don't worry. Yeah. Yeah.
I spoke to them myself.
I'm sure, no, of course you have. Of course you have.